I'm not hearing anything.
Hello, welcome. I don't know why that audio didn't play for that, but whatever. I can't be bothered today. I'm too tired for this shit. What's going on, everybody? Hello.
Chesh is a professional.
Oh, bro, I'm so goddamn tired. I've still got my audio. You guys should be able to hear me coming through. There we go. Done.
Yep.
Yahoo! Yep. I don't know why that didn't play. Wacky. I don't know. Whatever. I can't hear Maanyaa now. She's on my end, but I think she might be muted on hers.
I can't hear
her.
Yeah, I
muted myself.
Oh, there he is. There she is. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
So professional.
Oh,
we know what we're doing, allegedly.
Allegedly. All right, welcome back to Debate Pub, the show that we do once a month at the end of the month to talk about all the news that happened during the month. And boy, there's a lot of world politics going on this time around. We had the G7, Canada, European Union had a meeting right before NATO, and Trump was shitting his pants through the entire month.
Possibly literally.
Possibly literally, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Landon, how are you? Let's start with Landon, then we'll go to Maanyaa, then we'll go to Dapper. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. We've announced that we're in the final round of the final rounds of judging the sea contest, so we're near there. And I have, since this is a debate pub, I have several options, and in concert and solidarity with my fine Canadian friends upstairs, I have a really nice Charlatan wine from Fraser Valley 2022 there. That's a nice white wine. I also have a gin from British Columbia that has pea flowers. That's this nice purple. There I can do a gin thing, or if I go south of the border, I can do either a G4 Blanco tequila or this really lovely mezcal from a
very nice
in Mexico. So that is my thing. And if down in the chat, if you could suggest, is it wine, gin, tequila, or mezcal? Right? Which one should I start with?
Yeah, let him know. Maanyaa ran away right when. Okay, Dapper has.
Hey, you.
Yeah, but you're not. If I ask you how you're doing and you're just your chair, I'm not dealing with it. Dapper, what's going on?
Okay.
Oh, I had Dapper Reacts today. That went, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
You did.
It's been a month.
It's been a month
that has occurred. Yep.
Yeah, things happened.
Way too many things.
I went missing for 8 hours before stream yesterday to produce for Top Hats Off.
18
You can call this has been
a sorry, 18 hours. Nobody knew where I was.
18 hours. Wow.
Vanished.
Wow. But Dapper, this has also been a century, too, because we're coming up on a century of the Scopes trial.
True. We are.
Nice.
Yeah, in case anyone doesn't know, the Scopes trial was a trial in the United States. The actual trial itself was about whether or not a substitute biology teacher, who was normally like a phys ed teacher, had taught students evolution against the law. But it became sort of a public referendum on the theory of evolution and its acceptance in American society. Mm-hmm. Which is weird, because it never really should have been that. And in fact, the actual, the law itself, nothing really happened. The teacher was convicted. He was levied a fine. The nonprofits that had wanted to do this in the first place paid the fine, and then everyone went home. And, legally, virtually nothing happened, but it was, for some reason, a giant watershed in terms of, public discourse on evolution in the United States.
Yeah. I guess it got people talking, and sometimes that's what you need.
Absolutely.
Maanyaa, what's up?
Okay, hi! Me. It has been a month for me too. Finally, I have been given control of all my 3 sites that I'm looking after. So I am dead, almost always dead by the end of the week. This week, surprisingly, I wasn't. I'm actually surprised at myself. I made it through. And I won an award. I have to I have to write an acceptance speech for that. So that's more work for me.
That
But
sounds
yeah,
so
I'm very
awkward. I would feel like I would be so awkward trying to write an acceptance speech.
right. Yeah, but I'm like, yeah, I've got an award. I should write an acceptance, speech for that. So I'll write that. And apparently, another weirdo on Twitter couldn't handle these and blocked me and ran away. And I was like, okay, cool. And kept on and had to do like how many streams now? Four streams to deal with my tweets. Yeah, it was it's fun.
Monty's always getting in trouble.
Yeah.
They ran to mommy and daddy because a girl was mean to them. So that was fun.
Well, I think, Maanyaa, that you are award winning, so it's no. I would not. I'm not surprised that you have to accept the award.
Aw.
Although you could reject it, you
Thanks.
could sit there and say, "I decline this award because things
On
would be better."
principle.
Yeah, on
And people in the
principle.
chat, I've given you a option 1 to 4. Give me a digit, and if you could do the more than one digit, I'll take the first digit. So
Yeah,
there you go.
unfortunately, I
I'll do
can't
that.
make a poll yet because I need like 100 more subs, and then I'll be able to do stuff like that. But that's okay.
Oh, okay.
So, like and
Oh,
share
yeah.
and subscribe and all that good shit. All right, let's get into this. We got. All right, France plans to increase air force capabilities of Ukraine with more Mirage 2000 5F fighter jets. So, on June 24th, 2025, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with French President Emmanuel Macron to discuss joint steps in Ukraine's defense strategy, and the discussion focused on the possibility of expanding Ukraine's air fleet. Considering how successful Ukraine has been in absolutely pummeling Russia this last month, with between their drone strikes and now getting having access to long range weaponry. If you remember last month, at the end of the month when we did our show, we had pointed out and talked about how the Ukraine was given permission to start using long-ranged attacks, and then immediately after the show was over, they did that, and it was just like, oh, well, I guess we'll have to talk about it next month, son of a bitch.
Oh god.
Canadians are over there training them, for the most part.
So it kind of shows like how like
Yeah.
France and Europe are taking the regional stability kind of quite seriously now because they are helping Ukraine more and more. And then also there's a shift in a relationship between this is France, right? So France and Ukraine, there's a shift in that also. So I guess it all comes from like because US and their leadership at international level is so uncertain and so like unbalanced. So like Europe had decided that yeah, okay, we have to take matters in our own hands. Fuck America. We're gonna do what's important, and I guess this is one of those steps towards that.
I can
So,
kind of
yeah.
understand America's like degrees of separation of being like, we don't really care that
Yeah.
much because it
Yeah.
doesn't, we are so far removed from the stability of the area in a local sense, but it really does
Yeah.
mess with the stability of the global economy at the same time,
does.
and the like
Yeah.
the position of global powers politically as well. So they should care probably a little bit more, but I can kind of understand the disconnect.
Yeah.
Well,
But
typically in a normal year,
Yeah.
America would care a lot more.
Yes.
Historically, it has cared a lot more.
Yes.
But and guess what, you MAGA
Normally.
isolation heads? The world essentially is ignoring the U.S. or trying to route around it. So what's
Yeah.
happening, for example, with the U.S.'s economy in arms merchants, we just are arms merchants of the world, is that people say, well, we don't buy American, and France says, hey, we got stuff, and Sweden says, we got stuff. And so right now, France, because it's in their backyard, is selling things. And guess what? Even when Agent Orange goes away, the sales that have been lost, and future sales, is going to impact U.S. jobs. The so-called America First thing is basically putting America last, and the rest of the world is going to say, yeah, no, we don't need to buy your stuff. We've got other places.
Yeah, for Canada, it was announced that, at least Mark Carney has announced that they're planning on having the review of the F-35 deal that Canada had, the contract with the American military industrial complex. their decision about that and the review will be over by the end of this month, I believe. I think he was saying. So that would be by like July, if I
It's
understood
also
it
like,
correctly.
yeah. It's also wasn't this whole thing started, the Russia-Ukraine war was because Ukraine was trying to become a NATO member, right? That's what was there. That there was some talks about Ukraine becoming a NATO member, and then
I mean,
so what does? Let me
Well,
just
its
finish my thought.
cause is a little bit.
Yeah, it was like the Russia gave that cause.
That
I'm just
was
saying.
in there. It was in there.
Yeah,
yeah, it was a
the
factor.
main point.
Yeah.
My main point is that like France supplying these kind of I guess these
Military
weapons
support.
or these jets, military support to Ukraine, kind of pushes towards that. Yeah, when this conflict is over, their like whole like weapon arsenal is going to be something what looks like, you know, of a country of a NATO member. You know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
a NATO member. So that's
But-
what my
Yeah, it's
point is.
military capabilities.
But I think one of the things that is also have to consider is that Putin, having been the KGB thug in East Germany, was reduced to essentially non-status and had to go to Moscow and become a taxi cab driver. And by the way, taxi cab driver is an honorable profession, and Putin is such a chicken that he thinks that having to be reduced to a cab driver was something made him mad. So he wants to become the czar and to rebuild sort of the great Soviet Union system. Guess what?
Stolen valor.
Those planes that Ukraine is, the Russian air defense is crap. The ability of Russians to be the world superpower is put aside. Ukraine has a formidable foe, so it's not as if it's easy. But you got to hand it to Ukraine for it's do or die time, and Ukraine is putting up a great fight. Now, our MAGA heads and the Gentlemen of Putin organization, known as the GOP, has been trying to help Russia directly and indirectly, unfortunately. So it's going to be up to Europe to essentially assist to make sure Ukraine stays free of Russian influence. But it's also up to the rest of the world to say it is not okay to trade with Russia, right? Collapse their economy, have China, India, and Turkey stop funding the Russian war, and stop supplying their things. That's going to end up with stability. Sorry, Russia, your economy is collapsing. Russians are, by the way, used to that. Actually, Russian people are used to it because, again, it's the Russian government, not the Russian people, that we have the beef with.
That's actually one of the stories that we are going to talk about, but I do want to point out that Jason has said, didn't America get Ukraine to go non-nuclear with the promise to protect them? Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, it's been a strategic goal of the United States to get essentially no new countries to develop nukes.
Yeah.
There's been
as well as the
success
UN.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the U.S., right? It's been a strategic goal for a lot of countries right now to stop nuclear proliferation. And I mean, there are good arguments for it. However, a lot of the countries that want to get nuclear weapons would make the counter argument that it's really hard to invade a country that has nuclear weapons.
Yeah. That's
we
Iran
are in danger of
right
being
now, yeah.
invaded. Right, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, it's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Iran probably wouldn't be being bombed right now if it was known that they had nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Or if it was like an open secret, like with
One
Israel,
of
where it's like, officially, does Israel have nukes? Not according to Israel, but according to literally everyone else, yeah, of course they have nukes.
Same with, actually, that's one of the issues when it comes to Ukraine and Russia as well. One of the reasons why the rest of the countries, like France, who is a nuclear power, and the UK, who is a nuclear power, have been tentative about dealing with Russia from like a military standpoint and just directly declaring war on Russia is because Russia also has nukes. So there's a tentative not wanting to do that, the quote unquote nuclear option. I think, and honestly, I think that's a very big question that Canada needs to discuss about should Canada officially become a nuclear power. Now, we have the technology in Canada. It would not take us long to just build our own nukes if we wanted to. And we have access to nuclear weaponry through our relationship with the United States, which, as we all know, is... we'll talk about that more later. But also with France and the UK and Europe. But the France and the UK might not want to help us with America if we don't have nukes and America does. So it is it is a situation that needs to be discussed in Canada, in my opinion. But
now Canada, 50% of the time it's a Canadian general that is the in charge staff at NORAD and is managing the Cheyenne complex. So in some ways, the fact that Canada hasn't set off its own nuclear weapon is kind of immaterial. It is.
That's why I said officially.
It's a nuclear power.
Yeah. We have nuclear capabilities. But we do not have a testing site. We don't have actual nukes in our country in that way. But as part of NORAD, we have access and more power than I think people realize that we do. But going on. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. There are plenty of Canadian scientists who are involved in underground nuclear tests and also monitoring the French tests. So Canada's a nuclear power, but just that it's not officially.
We're a nuclear power. We're a nuclear power that gets to sit on a high horse and pretend we're not. Germany is unwilling to speak with Putin at this point. They're just like, we're not even going to bother talking to him. And honestly, I think that's a pretty good move. So this is as of June 28th. So the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, said that he does not intend to hold telephone conversations with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, as previous talks have failed to de-escalate the situation in Ukraine. Merz mentioned a visit to Putin by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in July of 2024, and a phone conversation between the Russian leader and the former German Chancellor. I think Germany is leading the way on this one. It makes sense, and I will not be surprised if the rest of the European Union and European countries like France, Canada, the UK are like, we're done talking to you. There's no point. There's no point in talking to you. Yeah. What are we doing?
Yeah. By the way, no one really at this point expects that Agent Orange, otherwise known as President Trump, is going to do anything effective. Russia's going to do what it wants. Ukraine's going to defend it, and its allies are going to try to support it the best way they can, despite people like Orban and his homophobic government.
Yeah, I don't think that Hungary is impressive enough to change anybody else's mind about what they're going to do. And I'm pretty sure, ever since, at least if not before Trump got elected, a lot of the European Union countries had already sort of all agreed that we're done pissing around with this. This has been going on for too long. And Trump's definitely caused issues one way or another, and maybe caused some things to move forward in a maybe good direction overall, but
I think what Germany and other European countries are trying to send the message across is that what's the point of talking with Russia when they are not going to follow through with anything they made commitment to? That's the thing. It's you're just making making a fool of themselves, right? Of them, right? It's they will promise stuff and then they won't follow through. They're not trustworthy. So what's the point? And also, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of all diplomatic resources, to make those calls happen, those conversations happen. A lot of things happen around that. You can't just sit down and start talking because, each side makes demands like, oh, we will only sit down and talk if you give us this and this and this. And by the looks of it, it's only Germany that gave that to Moscow when the last talk happened, and Moscow didn't follow through with the commitments they made. So Germany is like, why are we going to waste our time with this? Fuck off. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, it's very, very much so. And the situation Ukraine faces is that, and this is something that Vance, who knows better, so shame on you, Vance, for being involved with that idiot in the White House.
Yeah.
You know, and that ill-fated meeting with Zelensky and Trump doing his temper tantrum. Is it trying to point out that Russia has violated the ceasefire multiple times, and having another ceasefire so that Trump can say, "Hey, I did a deal," is irrelevant, right? It is essentially stopping Russia's attempt to go and take over the Balkans, take over they're called Eastern Front. Is very important for the safety of Europe, and if you know, the United States isn't going to participate, Europe's got to do it themselves. In this particular NATO meeting that they had, I talked to one of the lower level officiants who were part of the negotiations, and they described Trump's attitude as, you know, during lunch they put him off on the side with a pile of cheeseburgers while everyone else had amazing lunch, and they sat there and then was allowed to go out and tweet. And do his.
They put him at the kiddie table.
No, I mean literally. And so when they talk about calling him daddy, he's so dumb enough to think that's an endearment thing. No, they stuck him on the side with cheeseburgers and say, "Hey, you do your thing," while the rest of the meeting was talking to people in Ukraine about what to do and how to stop Russia's aggression into Europe.
Yeah. Oh wow!
So, I mean, we're at a war in Europe, and people have got to realize it.
Yeah.
Pretending it's not there is not going to.
What is the other option to deal with that man? Right? He's completely useless for negotiating anything.
Yeah.
He has absolutely no ideas of any value to anyone. He's rude. By all accounts, he smells like literal shit.
Yeah.
In fact, on the set of The Apprentice, it was well known that if you got too close to Trump, you would smell like actual fecal matter.
What?
Because he was constantly shitting his pants and not noticing, and occasionally his daughter had to call him aside to change his underwear. What do you do with that guy in the room?
Put him in the corner.
Yeah. What else?
And
what
MAGA, this is what make America great. This is your leader. GOP, you were aided and abetted. Vance, you know better because you were one of the people that were attacked on January 6th, and you're still a VP. Shame on you.
Oh,
you
saw
Vance has said that Trump would be America's Hitler. That's a quote from J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance tweeted the other day saying, "Oh, has there ever been another VP that's gotten like more like attention and not like energy than me?" And somebody immediately responded with, "I don't know, ask Mike Pence." That's the funniest shit I had ever seen.
That's good.
One more thing, with the Ukrainian drones. All right. The drone strike. Hear me out. Hear me out. So what happened with the drone strike was basically not just a precision strike that did a shitload of damage from the point of view of like economically damage militarily and how much all of the planes they destroyed cost. There were no casualties to it. They shipped in the drones without getting caught doing it. The emotional damage to somebody already paranoid like Putin is just going to collapse Russia's economy, which we've seen has been the result, because they've been stopping every fucking truck trying to go through Russia at all at these stops, just backing up traffic all the way. It's crazy. And I'm like, I'm watching this. I saw this happen. I'm reading about this, and I'm just like, I know for a fact that there are Canadians over there, Canadian military service members, and Canadian generals over there. And I'm like, that has Canada fingerprints all over it. I'm like, I know my country when I see that shit.
The other thing, Chesh, that Canada has been doing that Ukraine is very grateful for is their economic forensics people rooting out oligarchic and Putin money, right? Yes. Canada seems to be the master at figuring out where people screwing away stuff and nailing that things. Yeah. I think it's time that people stop pretending and actually seize the principle and say the principle is going to be used to rebuild Ukraine.
Yep.
right? We're not going to do, that'll be the war reparations. And meanwhile, collapsing the Russian economy is going to produce a more stable world because they have less ability to economically damage through their proxies the rest of the world, such as Iran.
Two people in the chat, Titan and Jason, both pointed out Trojan horse. This is what I mean by this is Canada's fingerprints all over it. Canada does not, like, if it ain't broke, we're not gonna fix it. We do trenches because they're effective still. Like, like, why would we stop? This works great. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna keep doing it.
It also shows, like, Ukraine is done, like, defending itself. It's now taking the war to Russia, and it's evolving its strategy of how it's going to take the war to Russia.
And
so
to be clear,
significant.
To be clear, I also don't intend to say that I'm taking anything away from Russia, or from Ukraine. Ukraine are the ones who pulled it off. They were able to do it. They executed it perfectly. 10 out of 10, no notes. But I know my country's fucking fingerprints when I fucking see them.
But the tragedy is in the Russian... Go ahead. Please go ahead, Maanyaa. Sorry.
This also tells us, right, that the future war that is going to happen, it's going to happen around trade. That's... Sorry, I burped. My goodness. That is why, like, as soon as Israel started, attacking Iran was like, we are gonna block the strait, right?
Yeah.
From where all the world shipment goes through, and everyone panicked, and U.S. had to step in, So that's what I'm saying.
The U.S. was already dick deep in that, but.
They were, yes.
But everything else.
They had to show that they meant something, that something needs to be done. So that's what I kept saying in our previous debate hubs also. The future war will be who can control the trade across,
I mean, that's always been the case a little bit, though, right?
Yeah. A little bit,
but
yes.
It's quite important.
The Crusades also happened because it was all about trade, like,
Well, I mean, like, blocking off trading routes is a really classic wartime maneuver, because, like, same with, like, sieges and things like that. Again, if it ain't broke, we're not gonna fix it.
And,
this is what Landon's been going on. Yeah, sorry.
In the chat, that Iran... I mean, excuse me, that Ukrainian drones and strikes deep inside Russia has shown that even the Russia's depth is not a barrier to essentially attacks.
Oh yeah,
the Russian military has moved their nuclear bombers right at the very eastern edge of Siberia, right next to the United States. Not because they're planning an attack, but because they're trying to keep it as far away from Ukrainians as possible.
Yeah,
and
and the thing is, right, is like it's effective, it's cheap, it's precise. It's not easy to catch and stop. It's gonna make it's such like it's an emotional, like, psychic damage directly to Vladimir Putin's brain. That's perfect.
And here's a tragedy about out in the countryside of Russia, right? Is where they're getting people to go into the military or forcing them. And they're not doing it by the people in the cities. They're not doing it by the oligarchs. It's out in the countryside. And they'll go and say, essentially, you get one of your kids to sign up. You get 1.2 million rubles right now, which is about $15,000 US. And the village holds a funeral for the person as a patriotic send-off thing, knowing that chances of that person coming back alive is not so good, right? So they're sending cannon fodder to the front, and this continuous wave. This is sort of the kind of the Russian macho. We're back at defending, defending the Eastern Front from the invaders. But it's the people in the countryside that are suffering. They don't go. They haven't dared go into the city and start grabbing people in the cities where the higher Russian elites, because they don't want to. They don't want to do that. It's one of the cowardly moves that I think Putin. It'd be nice if I could see Putin on trial for war crimes in The Hague. I not hold my breath on it.
Yeah. But you were mentioning
when was the last time anyone actually ended up being tried at The Hague?
you were mentioning Russia's economy. Putin says Russia will cut military spending as economy on the brink of going into recession. So,
Are they really?
It's been a long time. Like, they've been doing a lot of military spending, and it's been the military spending that's been, like, basically, that's what their economy is built on, really, at this point.
If you want to see the facts about the Russian economy, check out the Joe Blogs channel. But
cutting military spending
has been in recession. Even with the numbers that the Russian government puts out, right? But the Russian people are used to this. Sadly, they're having economic problems. It's kind of a traditional thing.
But the
Russia.
fact that they're announcing less military spending after getting slammed so hard this entire month by Ukraine and their allies is like, it looks really bad for them from like a war
The sovereign
standpoint.
wealth fund is being depleted.
Yep.
No one wants rubles.
Yep.
And they're having, they have, and the probably the best thing happened for Russia recently was the rise in price of oil, right? But
yeah.
Severe state labor shortage. They don't have unemployment because many of the people that would be unemployed are on the front or are dead.
Speaking of catering to Trump, he's got to go visit King Charles because he got his second invite to the Buckingham Palace.
Oh God!
And needless to say, he is being, of course, treated like a child.
So, like, what the fuck was this? Like, wasn't like King Charles like in Canada a month ago or something like that?
Last month.
And
yeah.
people were like, okay, maybe that is sending a message to US, maybe. And now he's having Trump here.
No, Trump had already been invited back. So this is just what's happened now that he's been invited back. This is what's happening.
Okay.
Honestly, I think it's a couple of things. One, it was kind of Canada was already giving side eyes to Britain in particular about the way they've been handling Trump because they've been very placatey, like almost too placatey in my opinion, in the way it comes off. But I mean, having an actual king telling wannabe King Trump what to do is kind of funny. I don't know if it really means anything. It says that he's planning on lobbying Trump about not being a dick to Canada anymore, about Ukraine, and about climate change. But does anybody actually think Trump's gonna listen? I don't.
No, why would he?
Even if he promises, that promise is going to be violated a couple days later when he tweets again.
Yeah,
I think he's just one, it's trying to placate Trump. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
And number two, it's like another like a power move, I guess, because Charles was in Canada, wasn't he? And he was like, it was around that time when Trump was like saying, "Oh, we are gonna annex Canada and blah 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 blah."
I mean, he's still saying that, but yes.
Yeah, so Charles comes in and he's like, excuse me, UK here, I'm the king of the Commonwealth, what the fuck are you talking about? So he made that symbolic gesture by coming to Canada and asserting like, yeah, I am the head of the Commonwealth. You are not the head of the Commonwealth. You just can't come in. If you are going to try and annex Canada, you're going to deal with the whole Commonwealth. I think so. That's what was maybe the message was that he was trying to portray. And now inviting Trump to UK, it's another thing of like, yeah, Trump listens to me, so don't worry. I think maybe that's what he's trying to project to the world. But we know that Trump is like a little child who's like, yeah, who's gonna have a tantrum. We don't know when.
They talk about tantrum. King Big Ears still owes Australia an apology for his involvement in the constitutional crisis of 1975.
Yeah.
And I am proud to have cussed in his face.
I know. That was so nice. Imagine him going to...
And so those two people can just sit there and throw crap at each other. Whether it's in their diapers or not, I don't care. Both are scum of the earth people, in my opinion, in terms of their behavior. And both deserve to apologize.
There's a reason why why Elizabeth didn't like let him rule when she was still alive. There was a reason why that woman let only death take away that crown from her. There's a reason for that, because Charles is a spoiled brat. He's a spoiled brat. He and like yeah, and this whole thing, I'm imagining like Landon like cussing in his presence, and I'm going back to Elizabeth and going, "Mummy, this peasant today just cussed in my presence. What is going on? Why are we allowing such filth in our midst?" Blah 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 blah, like that.
Dapper, you had something?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't say it here, but I've said it before. And if there was one thing I could trade about the king of the Commonwealth versus the wannabe king of America, if I could trade something about them, it would be the cancer.
I mean,
we find a way to cure King Charles' cancer and then just give it to Trump.
We are going to talk about Trump's
cancer
health.
Trade.
It's going to come up, but I mean, I don't know if cancer is that far out from where Trump might actually be right now. But alas,
I think it'll be his heart first, but maybe.
India slams Pakistan.
Does cancer run in his family? I mean, is there history of cancer? I don't know.
He's old enough.
I just know that he's an old man who is very fat and eats almost nothing but well-done steak and cheeseburgers. So, like, it's not too much of a stretch to say that something with his heart is going to go wrong sooner rather than later.
So you're saying that the White House caterers are conducting a secret attack against the presidency?
Ooh.
I wish.
All right.
Every single caterer is currently undergoing some kind of dereliction of duty for not actively poisoning that man.
What's the moral dilemma?
The moral dilemma is
professionalism versus morality.
Well, the moral dilemma is like, okay, it is very clear that poisoning Trump right now would save possibly hundreds of thousands of lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's also extremely illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably murder. I don't think it's murder, but I don't recommend it because you'll almost certainly be convicted of, killing the president. Yeah. And at the very least, you'll spend the entire rest of your life behind bars. Although, if I were to be elected president, I would immediately pardon that person. I also wouldn't bring them back as a cook, to be fair.
Yeah, all right.
They would also, right.
Yeah.
So, like, but no, it's like we talked about last time, right?
Political assassinations, yeah.
Political assassinations are very obviously more moral than war in almost every circumstance.
Yeah, if you're measuring lives, yeah.
But if you're going to go be an assassin, that's a really shitty idea, and you definitely shouldn't do that in terms of wanting to have a life for yourself.
Yeah.
So, like, there are a whole lot of people at the White House who could do one of the most morally praiseworthy things that anyone in history has ever done. But I don't think any of them should do it for their own sakes. Right.
I think that's a good way to put it. All right. India slams Pakistan for seeking to blame it for attack in Maanyaa, how do you pronounce that?
Waziristan.
Thanks. We reject the statement with the contempt it deserves, says Ministry of External Affairs in statement. India blasted Pakistan on Saturday night for attempting to blame it for a suicide attack. At least 14 security personnel were killed and 25 injured in the attack. Now, this is, I believe, the Damascus... that's Syria. I don't know if that's the right thing, but yeah.
No.
Okay, so that was a different one. All right. Yeah. And yeah, so what are your thoughts, Maanyaa? This is your...
Pakistan is just going, no, you! That's what Pakistan is doing at this moment. That's all I have to say about this. Because Pakistan is known to, fund terrorism and then suicide bombings. And, India doesn't have a plan like that. Pakistan has, if you can say, terrorist camps that use Islam and the way of jihad, very wrongly, if I might dare say, to create that, cult of suicide bombers, right? India doesn't have anything. Who's gonna suicide bomb for India? On what basis? What the fuck? It's just...
I mean... You might be able to get some Hindu nationalists to do it. Hindu nationalists have done it before.
When have they done that before?
I mean, It wasn't India,
Gandhi,
but
Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated
No,
by a Hindu
he was
radicalist.
assassinated. Assassination is different. Suicide bombing is different.
so
Oh,
as
okay.
far as I know, there
Fair
haven't been
That's
any
fair.
Indian. As far as I know, there haven't been any Indian Hindu nationalist suicide bombers. However, there have been Sri
No.
Lankan Hindu
Yeah.
nationalist
Yeah.
suicide bombers. So
So
Sri Lanka is
maybe it's
different.
just Sri
Sri
Lanka
Lanka is
only.
different.
Well, I know. I'm just saying Hindu nationalists
This is
have been known to suicide bomb. Although I
I
grant
don't
that
know.
there have
Alright.
not been ones from India.
All right, time out.
Hold on,
We'll put
hold
it
on.
this way. When you're a religious extremist and a nationalist for a country, you tend to be justified in yourself and easy to take
Well,
advantage
yeah,
of
yourself.
to do bad shit. And you shouldn't
Yeah.
do those kinds of fucking things. And I think anybody who is an extremist can be taken advantage of and driven that way. So it's not like India could never do it, but has not done it up until this point.
Yeah, I don't think there's any history that I
Is that fair? Is that a fair way to put that?
yeah,
Seems reasonable.
And let's
Okay.
also remember that Pakistan, this terrorist loving state, is the one where Aku Khan is sitting in a nice pleasure palace. He is the person responsible for North Korean nuclear, Iranian nuclear, as well as attempting to give Saddam Hussein in Iraq and Gaddafi in Libya.
There was an
Remember
American as well, right?
These
That was
people were hiding Osama bin Laden, and they have the gall to nominate Agent Orange for the Nobel Peace Prize, that little ridiculous thing that is done in Norway that has nothing to do with the Nobel Committee, other than they gave Norway the permission to use their name. But for Pakistan to try to nominate him for a peace prize, the Pakistan is this military dictatorship run country that likes the terrorists that they like, that support essentially and aid and abet proliferation of nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. I'm sorry, Pakistan. Screw your government.
And also, it's like the regional axis, right? It's North Waziristan. How are Hindu nationalists or Indian nationalists gonna reach there for a suicide bombing? That's fucking ridiculous. Like, at least in Sri Lanka, if you're gonna talk about, there was the proximity because there were Hindus there. You can say, yeah, okay, the Tamil Tigers, they're Hindus themselves. So yeah, there's something like that. But how are they going to justify in North Waziristan, all the way there, that there were like suicide bombings that were being done by India? That's absolutely ridiculous. It's like think before you try and point fingers at other people. Like, come on, man. And again, as Landon was saying, that there are like Pakistan was found harboring Osama bin Laden. After that, anything they say, any any finger pointing they do, it's just a joke. It's just a joke, in my opinion. But it's just
and
me
the
maybe
poor
because I was
people,
born in India.
the poor people of Kashmir, right? That got the Chinese and Indian government and the Pakistani government, thing, when they leave them alone and let them be. Kashmir is a beautiful place. It's a paradise on earth in terms of visually. Just leave the people of Kashmir alone and stop your bickering over it and military fighting
territorial nonsense.
Please.
And I want to point out, I was not saying that India was going to do suicide bombings. I was just pointing out that if we're doing Hindu nationalists, there have been suicide bombings by them. I don't think India is going to do any suicide bombing. I really would be very surprised.
Okay, Dapper, you wanted to talk about this one here. Suicide bombing at Damascus church kills 25. I believe that number has gone up since then, and the Syrian authorities have said, this was 6 days ago, it says at least 25 people, again, I'm pretty sure this has gone up since, Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say 25 is the last number I heard. Okay. The thing that I gave you that was, I said that the number has gone up, was a Reuters article that said 20.
Okay, yeah. At least 25 people have been killed and 63 others wounded in a suicide bomb attack at a church in Damascus, Syria's health minister said. A man opened fire with a weapon at a Greek Orthodox church of the Prophet Elias in Dawalia neighborhood? I did my best. During a service on Sunday...
It's Duela, but...
Duela? Oh, okay. Neighborhood during the service on Sunday evening before detonating an explosive vest, according to the Interior Ministry. Said the attacker was affiliated with jihadist group Islamic State, IS. Yes. There was no immediate claim from the group itself.
What do you want to bet that Iran was supporting, giving logistical support to that?
It's not clear. So elements of what remains of the Islamic State claimed, were blamed by Syria, and then later Islamic State affiliated group claimed responsibility. And while Iran is definitely a sponsor of terrorism, they don't tend to get along very well with the Islamic State because the Islamic State is a very strongly Sunni group to the point that they will, in fact, kill Shia Muslims, whereas the Iranian state religion is Shia Islam. So they tend not to get along too well.
Fair enough.
The reason I want to talk about this is well, there's a few reasons. One is, first of all, hey, American Christians, this is what persecution of Christians look like. Being told that you're not allowed to fire someone for being gay isn't persecution. This is. This is persecution.
Wow.
The second thing I wanted to point out is that when the Assad regime fell, this is one of the first things that I said. I didn't say it here, but I said it in other venues. I said, basically, it's going to go to shit for religious minorities. Because every time a Ba'athist or otherwise mostly secular military strongman dictator type falls in the Middle East, what immediately happens is Islamists take over. And that's not necessarily because they're particularly popular, but they tend to be very well organized and popular enough with the general population that there is usually not a massive uprising against them when they take over.
And fair enough, they also come with logistical support, like food aid, to ingrace themselves
Financial
with the local
support.
populace temporarily.
Yeah, and financial support from outside.
And also, one thing is that I kind of wanted to talk about this in part because, you ever play the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever?
Yeah.
These people are between 2 and 3 degrees from me. And that's shitty.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we forget about the actual real life human cost when we talk about these things, right? And I don't think that that's because we're doing something wrong. That's a natural human thing when there is some separation emotionally and even physically between you and whatever is going on that is costing lives. And this has reminded me that when we see 25 killed and 3 injured, those are people who have friends and family, and there is a fair chance that you might be more closely connected to them than you know about. I know people who not only are of that particular religion, which happens to be Eastern Orthodox, but I know people specifically who are under the Patriarchate of Antioch, which is the same Patriarchate there, which means that I know people who basically are, between 2 and 3 degrees from those people. At most, there's a couple bishops that are in the mix, and there might be fewer because there's a very fair chance that I know some people who were directly related and have met some of those people. And I think that that's something that we sometimes need to remember, is that when we talk about things like war casualties in Ukraine, or even in a bombing in Moscow that might hit some civilians, those are people. Those people's lives were snuffed out. They had family, they had friends, they had connections, they had communities there might be, a religious community or social groups that they're part of. And it's really shitty. And additionally, there's not a whole lot anyone can do about it. I don't have a way to get rid of Islamist groups in the Middle East or Pakistan-sponsored terrorists against India, or a way to end bombing in Ukraine. I don't have any of those things. And it kind of sucks. And also, hey, maybe this is a good reason why pushing for regime changes in places like, the Middle East or Iran, which is in the Middle East marginally, I would say. I don't really like calling it Middle East, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's certainly not part of the Arab world, so everyone who says that, please stop. Iranians aren't Arabs. They don't speak Arabic. They're not culturally Arabs. Muslim and Arab aren't the same word. They're no more Arabs than the Malaysians are, and you wouldn't call them Arabs either.
Yes. Well said, sir. Well said.
Yeah. So
It's also
that is one of those things. like maybe don't push for regime change at the drop of a hat because it's going to turn out badly. And one of the things I've pointed out before is in Iraq, right? The United States goes in, creates a regime change, and one of the first things that ends up happening is that religious minorities that had been safe were not adequately protected.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say weren't protected, right? Because I have a sister-in-law, and one of the things that she did when she was deployed out there was she stood around with an automatic weapon at the entrance of churches, just on guard duty, right? So, like, I'm not going to say that there was no attempt to protect religious minorities in Iraq, but this is the kind of thing that happens after a regime change, where you have a military strongman fall in the Middle East, and even if it's going to be a democratic election, there's a pretty good chance that Islamists are going to win. Again, not because the majority of the people want them to, because they tend to be the best funded and the best organized, and so they can outspend and out-organize any opposition. So please be careful when you start hearing people talk about, like, well, we're going to do a regime change in Iran. Do I like the Ayatollah? No, fuck that guy. But what's going to come afterwards could very well be way worse, or just the same regime with a few different faces, which is what happened in Afghanistan, right? The United States is like, oh, we're going to liberate Afghanistan from the Taliban.
Yeah.
Less than a week after they left, who was in power in Afghanistan? Oh, it was the fucking Taliban. Shocker.
There's an issue when it comes to a regime change should not come from it. From what I can conclude, a regime change should never come from outside. A regime change or governmental reform has to come from inside. There's a reason why when I hear like people from the United States, because I'm kind of sort of shifting my language from calling them Americans to calling them the people from the United States, just to be more specific and just to be like, I'm talking about you specifically, you know what I mean? I don't want to get confused, and there's like a lot of times like Mexico and Canada gets lumped in, and sometimes Brazil gets lumped in, and it's just like, what is happening here? You're the United States. When you're talking about like, when people from the United States are like, hey, Canada, help us. We're flying our flags upside down. We don't like Trump. Help. And Canada goes, what do you want us to do?
Yeah, there's not much Canada's going to do.
Like, we can support you in doing a regime change if you end up fighting your own military by, like, I don't know, dropping supply things and humanitarian aid, but we can't just roll in and fight your civil war for you. That's not how it works.
Yeah. What, are you asking Canada to invade the United States? Because they're not going to.
Well, that, and we already also know what the United States did when France did that for them, and then they left France to hang.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you want us to do? Nothing. We can't.
So are you proposing that the United States could become the fourth territory of Canada?
I mean, I don't know if we want that. All right, my personal
We're not good enough for it to be a territory. Okay.
It's not that you're not good enough. It's that there's too many of you.
Well, yeah, there's a lot.
What I would propose is to take that ugly line that Trump likes to talk about, that ugly imaginary line, and take that and like just push it down, just like about halfway through all the states that it's currently in, and give Canada cede control of the
Do you really want most of those places, though? Because those are not places that I think would fit in terribly well with most of Canada.
I mean, you want Ted Bundy and friends? He joined the Friends up in Alberta, and they'd be just best buds.
That's fine. Here's what I mean. This is why it's fine. Because the Americans who want to stay in America can just move down a little bit, and the Americans who want to become Canada can just move up a little bit, and then you can just adjust to your population, and then so some of you end up being Canadian, but those states are no longer those states anymore, so if you want to be in those states and stay in those states, you gotta move south. Just enough. Just push it down just a little. Just push that line down just a little bit.
Let it go.
Chunk of Wyoming, chunk of Minnesota, Vermont. We would probably just take all of Vermont. Let's be real, and probably just
Vermont,
give us Alaska because it's stupid. Everybody knows it's stupid. But anyway,
yeah.
Alaska's not stupid, but you're saying the border things where
where the border is cut off when this like weird sheer line is dumb. All right.
That seems fair.
Canada also takes better care of areas in these northern places, so we would do better taking care of Alaska. Anyway, State Department approves $30 million for funding of Gazan humanitarian aid. So it looks like with NATO, the NATO summit, and the G7, there has been more political aggressive rhetoric against Israel and being like, hey, stop it. And like that stop it is just getting like a little bit more aggressive, and being like, let us send humanitarian aid is a little bit more urgent. And I think that there's two reasons for this, in my opinion. One is everyone is trying to be less reliant on America. And so we're not considering America's opinion about Israel, which for some reason Trump has, at least in his rhetoric, has tied American interests to Israel's interests. So when Israel is like, this is good for Israel, Trump is automatically just like, therefore it is America first to do whatever Israel wants to do.
Oh, it's not for whatever reason. It's specifically because a large portion of his supportive base believe that something about the state of Israel is key to the return of Christ. And they primarily care about Israel in terms of what they think prophecies surrounding Israel are going to do for them. Which, no, nothing in the Bible is about the modern state of Israel. Nothing. No one who wrote the Bible had any idea that there was ever going to be anything about the modern state of Israel. Further, when you hear Israel in the Bible, it more frequently refers to a group of people than a polity.
Yeah.
And third, it's just hypocrisy on terms of like America first versus whatever, because Israel's interests are.
But Dapper, one of the pillars of the evangelical movement is the modern fulfillment of prophecy. How could you deny?
Cool. I can deny it by pointing out that literally none of the prophecies that they think have been fulfilled are about what they think they're about, and there have been no fulfilled prophecies that, at the very least, relate to Israel. Period.
And
I agree, by the way.
To rephrase it, I would say your prophecies are bad and you should feel bad, or your interpretations are bad and you should feel bad. Go ahead, Maanyaa.
My main concern is that I was reading this article actually yesterday, and what they're saying is that they're using private contractors, like security contractors, to get this aid into areas where this aid is supposed to go, right? And also, those security contractors take help from the Israeli forces at the same time. So how are they going to ensure that this aid that is it's going to reach the right people? We have seen that there have been shootings in the process where Gazans have tried, or people of Palestine who have tried to access this aid, and there have been shootings at them and killings. So that's my main concern. That how are they going to ensure, one, that there is no corruption happening with this aid that is going into those territories, because you're using private contractors. Once the aid is in their hands, how are you going to ensure that those private contractors are doing right by that aid? And also, those private contractors are taking help from the local Israeli forces, so that's even a bigger concern for me. So yeah, so I'm just saying that the 30 million is good, but how is it going to reach properly the people who really, really need it?
I will point out that there is growing dissent in Israel about this war and about their genocide of Gaza.
Which is good.
So that is
good. Finally,
something that has been shifting and changing, and it is not just the people who live there. I don't have the I don't think I actually have the article right now, but I did see an article that was talking about, and we talked about it last time a little bit, that it is actually the Israeli soldiers that are starting to refuse orders by being like, this is war crime, I'm not going to participate in this. So that is something that is an ongoing development that is in fact happening. So I'd be remiss if I did not at least mention that.
I know that the organization that's putting this that's being given this money and aid is called the Gazan Humanitarian Foundation, but the problem is that these are backed by the US and the Israeli government, and it operates under very tight security with very specific distribution sites, and they are guarded again by private contractors and Israeli forces.
Easily
So my main
corruptible.
concern,
Yeah.
easily corruptible, and we have seen that one site, minimum one site was, I don't know if it was used on purpose or what, I don't know what happened. People came there was chaos, and then a whole lot of shooting happened where people died on the site. So they might even use it as a bait at this point, and that is my main concern, and I will bring
Yeah.
that up like again and again, because I'm just like, just saying, oh yeah, we gave so much money does not absolve you of the responsibility of the chaos you have created in that region.
Giving
Absolutely.
aid in a war-torn area and in a scenario that Gaza finds itself in and the Palestinian people find themselves in is not as simple as just airdropping, right? You have to be there. You have to it needs more support than just that. Otherwise, you end up with like gangs and people fighting and killing each other over the aid that everyone needs. Especially when Israel is purposefully chokeholding the aid that's even allowed to go in there, which is almost worse than no aid at all.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me of my one personal beef with Pakistan that isn't just like being bad actors on the world stage, which is I once sent money to help with flood relief in Pakistan, and then I found out that they were discriminating on who got that money based on religion. And while I definitely sent it to aid everyone in Pakistan, including the majority religion, I also was under the impression that this would just be given to Pakistanis broadly, and that villagers wouldn't be told, I'm sorry, you don't get any aid because you happen to be Zoroastrian or Christian or the wrong kind of Muslim.
Yeah.
Okay,
fuck off, Pakistan.
We're gonna do one more bit of world news, and then we'll take a break, so everybody can go to the bathroom and get drinks. But I figure since we're still on the samey topic, and we've actually touched on it a couple of times, the G7. So there are a couple things about the G7 that I do want to point out. Specifically, so it happened in Kananaskis, Alberta. And yeah, I do know how to pronounce Kananaskis. I didn't actually have to practice nor look it up. I'm actually familiar with it.
It actually is a nice place, by the way.
Oh yeah, Kananaskis. A lot of places in Canada are actually very, very pretty. But I do want to point out
it's full of Albertans, though,
who participated. And
Albertans.
So yeah, Alberta wasn't there. Alberta wasn't in Alberta. So Canada, host country, and then you had, obviously, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdoms, United States, and the European Union, right? The G7. The invited countries that went was Australia, Brazil, India, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and Ukraine, which I think is, as much as there's been some controversies, I do believe one of the princes of Saudi Arabia was invited, and people were pissed about it. And people were not happy about India. People were pretty chill about Mexico, though. They were like, oh yeah, no, having Mexico there, having Ukraine there, fantastic. Having South Korea there, to me, makes complete sense. But people were not happy about Modi being there. I don't agree. I think he should have been there. I think India is Modi? The leader of India?
Narendra Modi.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
people were pissed about it. For a couple of reasons. Okay. Well, the Canadians, I should say. Canadians weren't happy about it because Canada holds a grudge. Canada and India have been in like a soft back and forth for a while, but it has resulted in India purposefully killing Canadians on Canadian soil and journalists in India. And Canadians aren't happy about that. However, and I don't
blame them.
Yeah, no, I think that they have every right to be mad. However, I don't think they're right to hold on to that forever, particularly when we have an opportunity to get at the table and have an opportunity for us to not be fighting anymore, in my opinion. I don't think we necessarily trust India right away. Oh, it also doesn't help that India was fucking with our elections and got fucking Pierre Poilievre. Thanks, Maanyaa.
How dare you, Maanyaa?
What the hell?
I
No,
am in my
Maanyaa-
defense, I'm a New Zealand citizen, all right? Just judging her back.
And Manya's Australian, right? She's in a land down under.
New
On the way to
Zealand.
becoming an
Cool.
Australian.
Yeah.
Yes.
India is a nuclear power. Yep, to keep in mind, that is important. They have a massive population. They have a shit ton of money. They are a massive, massive global economic market. They are
And they're-
huge.
They are also the number 2 funders of the war in Ukraine.
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's a
it is what
lot
it is.
that can be, well, but we can work with that. Right? If we are willing
You
and
can-
the rest of the world is willing to work with India, India doesn't owe allegiance to Russia, and Russia's not gonna owe allegiance to fucking India. So if we can work with India and shift what is beneficial for India,
And
then
India
problem goes away.
India is also a country. India is also a country at a national stage that that can still be influenced by international parties.
Yeah.
Let's just say they are not. They are. It matters to India how they look at global stage.
Yeah.
It matters to them. So.
By the way,
so
Red
yes,
Eye
you,
has that
you can
Maanyaa
use
eat
that.
Vegemite right now.
Right now, Maanyaa, you got some Vegemite.
I don't have Vegemite. Send me some.
Oh,
That's why she's only just getting there and working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
that's one of the
working towards
requirements for
becoming an
for Australianness.
Yeah.
Understood.
Is-
Understood.
Yeah.
I'll order one today.
part of the citizenship, the practical exam, is you just have to eat an entire jar of Vegemite straight in under 5 minutes.
I'll start practicing today.
Oh, that's a bit. I would
It's a small
actually
jar.
heat it and make it
What?
drink it as a tea.
Red Eye's going, what? Oh my
Oh.
god.
You're fired.
I'm fired.
She just got there. She's learning.
Okay,
This is
alright,
a teachable
bye,
moment.
everyone.
She's. By the way, Retta, she's on the other end of Australia, right? She's in that other side. I won't name the state, but it's
On
it's
that
on
other
the other
side,
side
yeah.
that you are. You're at the opposite
Landon,
side.
there aren't that
So-
many options, and each of them is gigantic.
Yes, I don't want to dox Maanyaa, but
Thank
where
you.
Red Eye is and where Maanyaa is about as far apart as you can get Australian wise.
So back to
yeah.
the G7. I think that having Ukraine there and India there matters if you want to talk about who India is funding in the Ukraine war with Russia. Having both
Yeah.
of them there is, at
Yeah,
least in my
Talking
opinion,
is good.
a step in the right direction. I also think that
Yeah.
if the rest of the world wants to move away from America and America's global influence on and its economic bullying and economic terrorism in some cases when it comes to specifically what Donald Trump has been up to, working with China, working with India is going to have to be on the table.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
They're
Good.
gigantic economies.
Yeah, they're huge. They're gigantic economies with massive numbers of people, and that's a massive market that the only reason we're not really getting along with is because of fucking America.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys. Stop that. But I do want to play this part. This part in particular. I just want to play this for you. Just a couple of seconds of Donald Trump and Mark Carney at the G7, and let me just hit
Oh,
play.
those were awkward.
Oh
Um,
dear. Oh dear. Oh,
Yeah, we're just
dear,
gonna listen
oh,
to this
dear.
for a second.
Oh.
I don't want to talk about that. We'll
As
see.
you mentioned Putin, do you think that he should have a seat at the G7 today, that it should be the G8?
I'm not saying he should at this point because too much water's gone over the dam, maybe. But it was a big mistake. Obama didn't want him, and the head of your country, the proud head of your country, didn't want him. This was a big mistake. You wouldn't have that war. You know, you have your enemy at the table. Even I don't even consider him. He wasn't really an enemy at that time. There was no concept. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But likewise, if he were a member of what was called the G8
looking at him,
at
he's
that
just
time, it
like-
was always the G8. You wouldn't have a war right now.
Why not?
What
Have China
material
deal with
support
that?
and
How
what
about China?
intelligence support are you providing Israel?
Okay, so then he goes on to talk about Israel, but I really wanted to point this out about the G7, G8 thing that he said for a couple of reasons, and I'm gonna make myself big for a second because I need to explain this. He got literally everything but one factoid wrong.
Yes.
Everything. The G7 was not always the G8. It was originally the G6. Then Canada joined a year after its formation to make it the G7, and then Russia was added later. When Russia annexed Crimea and started the war with Ukraine was when they were kicked out of the G8, with the rest of NATO, the G7 being like, don't do this, please. We don't want you to do this. Please stop. So he was not kicked out, and then the war started. Trump here is trying to blame Canada, hashtag blame Canada, for the Ukraine war, for Russia invading Ukraine.
Anyway.
And on top of that, the proud leader of our country, he states at a different point in this video, as Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau was not the prime minister when Russia was kicked out of the G8. Yeah. He was kicked out in 2014, and Prime Minister Trudeau became the prime minister in 2015. At the end of it, the leader
have you considered that maybe Trudeau was actually the secret power behind the throne the whole time?
I mean, it would be really funny if the drama teacher liberal was running the Tory-backed Stephen Harper from the Conservative Party for 10 years. When he was too young to run for prime minister.
It's because they're both secretly reptilians from underground.
Yes.
Just like Hillary Clinton and King Charles.
Classic.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to point out that even though it's G7, the 8th member is actually the European Union. They have a special status as not being a country, but
yes.
The EU is one of the members. So it really is 8, but they call it G7 because they wanted to make sure that Russia knows you're not invited.
You're not
Your economy is puny. Your economy is a war economy that anyone cares about. If you're going to bring someone in, there are other more substantive countries like India that you would consider as
like
part
Ukraine.
of G. Yeah.
But also, I'm not done with all the things he got wrong.
Yes, please, keep moving.
Justin Trudeau was not the prime minister at the time. The other statement he made was that if he had been president, that as opposed to Barack Obama, we wouldn't have had a war. All right, here's the thing with that. Trump wasn't in politics at the time. So there was no possible way he could have been president at the time that this went on. He gets literally every single part of this wrong. And not only is it offensive, it is concerning because there are a lot of, normal Americans that don't follow the news and will just take this as fact and won't bother to check. Because that's the problem with, that's one of the major problems I'm having with, current day America. It's that the current day America is not only ignorant, it's proud of its ignorance, and it won't even bother to double check. They'll be like, well, I don't know. And then just, maybe that's fine.
I don't care.
Yeah, sure, maybe that's the case, but then they will not even bother to look. And it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck's the point, man?
Well,
what are we talking about?
All right, I agree, but also, and this is not directly at Carney, I think that world leaders who go on with Trump need to be more blunt about correcting him. And there has been some pushback occasionally. The French president gave some pushback.
Macron is really a master at treating Trump like a child, using physical contact and shutting him down.
Was it South Africa? The president of South Africa? I believe that shut him down as well.
Macron knows how to master it.
Macron is really good at it.
Carney did a pretty good job of stopping the child as well.
Here's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
When someone says something that stupid in your presence, in your country, as a guest, and is ostensibly supposed to be one of your peers, it is time to just say, shut the fuck up, you idiot. Here's what actually happened. Why don't you know that if you're going to talk about this? What is wrong with you? And sure, it's going to be a diplomatic incident, but who the fuck cares? That man has already talked about invading the country of the guy on the right. The fuck do you care about his feelings?
I don't think it's about his feelings. I agree with you on premise, but I don't think it works at the G7 in the setting. So, for a couple of reasons. One, nobody is treating Trump like a peer. First off, that's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. That is very true.
Yeah, they're letting him. One of the other thing is, Carney has taken the way he's approached Trump multiple times at this point is to let him ramble and get himself in trouble to look as opposite to him as possible. So Trump goes on these rambling bits of nonsense, and then Carney comes in, acts like the adult in the room and shuts it down. Or acts like the adult in the room and corrects something. Or whatever. Getting into a piss fighting about what the facts are of the matter with Trump he's just going to be obstinate about it. And it's going to play right into his hands about what he wants to throw his next tantrum about, and feeds into the media in a way that you, as somebody running a country,
also,
you don't want.
Also, it kind of gives him that excuse. Look, they're not listening to me, so I'm gonna do whatever I want to do.
It gives him control that you don't want.
Yeah, he takes control of that narrative, and he acts like as if he's the party that's been wrong in that case, and then he's like, okay, there's no point of talking, so I'm gonna do what I want to do. So
I like what Dapper's saying, though. I just don't think in this scenario Carney's the one who needs to step in here. I think Marco Rubio is the one who needs to step in here and stop Trump. If we had honest actors and we had peers and we just had this one idiot, Marco Rubio ought to be the one stepping up and leaning on the president's shoulder and being like, actually, Mr. President, blah, 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 blah.
Marco Rubio gets everything that he has directly from sucking Trump's cock.
Yeah,
He's never going to do that.
I know he's not, but we're talking about what we think should happen in the scenario.
Well, I'm thinking about, like, what should happen, but in terms of, like,
the people who could actually do something that was willing to.
Like,
yeah.
Mark Carney could push back immediately and forcefully.
Sure.
And I'm not just saying Mark Carney, right? There's been a lot of people in Trump's orbit or who have been at the White House or at other diplomatic events, whatever, who could also have done this. It's not just a Mark Carney thing.
Yeah.
But those are people who, rather than losing everything, would what? Have a diplomatic incident with a country with whom diplomatic incidents are just becoming the normal way everything works?
I
mean, so what?
I think it's a two-pronged problem. I think it is. I don't think you're wrong. However, I do not think that is the approach that Carney wants to take. I do think that he is specifically going out of his way to look as diametrically opposed to Trump's behavior as possible. Right? I think that Carney is like, the media will correct this, and people are going to talk about how wrong he is, and if I step in and correct him, then people are going to be talking about the incident rather than just correcting the information, and it's going to escalate. Well, that's part of it, but also but also that I think that it would take the G7 and his role as host in this particular scenario, right? In a really, really bad direction that I don't think Carney wants it to go. We don't want to be the ones escalating with the United States. Carney does not want to be the one escalating. What he wants to let Trump sit there, say dumb shit, look completely incompetent, walk in like he's the adult in the room, and then let Trump shitting himself and throwing a tantrum justify whatever policy Carney wants to put forward in Canada.
I get that. Part of my problem, though, is that the reason that Trump can get away with all the stuff that he gets away with, which is considerable, is in part because he knows that his base in the United States is going to see just him saying things about, like, oh, well, we shouldn't have kicked out Putin. That was a bad idea. And, if I was president, it wouldn't have happened. And then there wouldn't have been this war and all these things.
I mean, those would have been just opinions that would have been fine. It's the Justin Trudeau and we wouldn't have had a war if we didn't kick him out is the more problematic fact.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, though, that he can get away with things like saying, well, maybe we should annex Canada, or maybe we need to buy freaking Greenland or whatever, right? He can get away with this primarily because he has a base that supports him. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that's going to make that particular base not support him is if they see him as weak. And Mark Carney, or anyone else, because again, it's not about Mark Carney in particular.
Yeah.
It's just that he's the one in this particular example, right? Them coddling him, them treating him with kid's glove, that's not going to get back to any of Trump's base. The only way that Trump's base is going to see him as weak, which they need to, really.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Is if people just shit on him continuously in a way they can't ignore.
So I agree with that Trump needs to be shown as weak. I don't think that looks the same to every country it's not other countries' jobs.
But that's part of the thing is in order. Okay.
It's not other countries' jobs to cater to that. That's a Democrat in America. An American needs to do that to him.
I mean, I have much more of that feeling for the Democrats. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Maanyaa.
Also, it's like, what does humiliating Trump looks like to his base?
Right.
You need to know that, because what might look like, oh yeah, definitely Trump got humiliated. His base might just go into like, yeah, they're like, no, he handled it they blah blah blah. So you have to know that too.
I'll put it this way: in Canada, because again, I'm just going to speak from Canada because I've been following it relatively closely, and I'm from Canada. I have watched Americans. Really? Go figure. And I've watched Americans react to it, and I've gotten comments in my own comment section that I've had to directly deal with. And I've watched Americans that are not like MAGA Americans, just like, reactor YouTubers. When Carney was in this scenario, as well as when Carney went to the White House, I watched an American go, oh, well, he said he was a transitional, like like he's changed the world. He's a very transitional president. But he didn't really say that the transition was good. But, he didn't really insult him either. I watched this American who's not even a Trump supporter cope his way out of his president being slapped in the face verbally. And so, like...
But that's the thing. I want more of that cope, because every time someone copes with that, what's also happening is that their faith in him is being weakened. Even if in the moment they find some way to rationalize it and reduce that cognitive dissonance, the more that cognitive dissonance builds up, the less likely he is to get support from those people who have it.
And this is why I think that the time and place and the way in which I do not think, like, for example, correcting Trump about some things in some scenarios is going to have the best outcome. A really good example of this is Macron, when he was at the White House, correcting Trump about who's paying for what in Ukraine. And Macron was like, oh, no, we pay for this. This is real money. This goes there, and then it will be paid by Russia, right? Like, this is to be paid by Russia, not Ukraine, because Russia is the aggressors, as I am French, ha ha ha. And so, but
excellent French accent.
Thanks. And he corrected him that way on that particular. I think arguing facts with Trump in this setting for Carney was not the thing that made Trump look weak. The thing that made Trump look weak is that he's laughably wrong, that he's not even worth correcting, and then Mark Carney just shuts the whole thing down like less than a minute later. So, like, he goes off on this tangent saying wrong things, and Carney, instead of arguing with him or correcting the piddly facts that are insulting to Canadians but don't really matter in this scenario, is he just shuts Trump up and then shuts down all the reporters and then closes off the whole encounter.
Yeah,
which
Carney
is a show of power.
I interrupted the next reporter that wanted to say something and said, I'm the chair, we're stopping this.
Yeah.
And before Trump knew what was happening, he was like, oh, everyone's leaving. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's just standing there like an idiot.
Handling him like a child, man-child.
I don't think
also,
handling him like a child is the same as handling him with kids' gloves, either.
Yes, because that would be yes.
I don't know.
So
it's tricky. It's really tricky, and it's like I agree with Dapper. I just think that there's like the way it plays out, I think, is just very, like, interpreted in very different ways, and I don't think MAGA base is worth convincing. I think you're better off, I think they're already a minority, they're already weak, and just mobilizing the rest of America is a better place to be. And I think to do that, you need adults. And you need to just look different than Trump.
I would like to think that it's true that they are so weak that they can be disregarded in terms of numbers. But the fact is, if that were true, they wouldn't have won the last election.
I don't know if that's true because of the lack of turnout.
But the thing is, turnout...
That's what I'm saying. You need to mobilize the rest of America.
And the thing is, I'm not saying that that's untrue. What I'm saying is, what I don't think is true is that we can realistically just say, well, if we just ignore the Trump base and we just mobilize everyone else, I don't think that's a reliable strategy. Because I think that they're not as small in number as they perhaps should be. Well, as they absolutely should be. There shouldn't be anyone.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you shouldn't support fascism. I'm just put that out there as a general rule. But given that that's not an option...
I mean that it's not
good. This is the Dapper's device. Don't support fascism.
I don't think it's a good idea to cater your political movements to the MAGA base. Even if it's to, like, I think the most effective thing so far in America, and it actually worked in Canada and Australia as well, is to actually mobilize and speak to the issues that affect the majority of Americans, because those are also the things that the MAGA people are complaining about too. In a lot of those.
Well, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that what needs to happen is that we should be catering to Trump supporters. What I'm saying is we should be doing the maximum amount to demoralize them in terms of their support for him.
Yes.
Here's the thing, right?
I agree.
If you're some guy who voted Trump twice or thrice, maybe, I don't know. And you are like, oh yeah, going and kidnapping American citizens with leukemia who are 7 years old and then shipping them off to a country they've never been to.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. If you're that guy,
ew.
I don't want you on any political side that I'm on. But what I want you to do, well, first, go get hit by a bus. But failing that, what I want you to do is stay home on the next election.
Yes.
Well, the bus driver is going to be traumatized and the bus might get dented.
No, he'll figure it out because the guy will be wearing a MAGA hat and then he'll say, oh, okay, well, anyway.
By the way, congratulations to New York. Also, so there's talks about Carney had given a 30-day length of time before more retaliatory tariffs would be in place to get some kind of negotiation actually rolling with Donald Trump. In 30 days.
You said Carney did?
Carney did, yeah.
Okay.
Then, wait, hold on, what's the date on this? Was this yesterday? What's the date? Yeah, yesterday, the day before, the 26th, it started going around that a Canadian had been murdered in an ICE facility. Ooh. Do you need me to make you big?
Canadian?
Yeah, this is the mezcal. This is number 4. I went through the wine. This is basic on things from there. This is a wonderful mezcal from there in a nice ceramic bottle from a mezcalero in Mexico.
A Canadian who had been living in America for a long period of time showed up to a regular hearing that was required for immigration. He was taken into custody and he was found dead in custody. These are conditions that we know are really bad. There's negligence. I'm calling it murder, but, take that for what you will. And then, the next day, Trump proceeded to post, "We have been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced that they are..." Please say wrong every time he says something wrong. Thank you. "Just announced that they are putting a digital service tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country."
Wrong.
"They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussions with us also. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will
Wrong.
let Canada know the tariffs that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Thank you.
Well, it turns out, real Donald Trump, that the United States is still negotiating with Canada over trade.
Go figure.
Someone didn't get the memo,
Also,
or they
they're
don't watch your
extremely easy to
stupid
trade with.
tweets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, what was that, Dapper?
They are also extremely easy to trade with. They're just not easy to trade with while they're currently under threat of military annexation and being just randomly targeted for a trade war because I have still no idea why.
We're not easy to bully is what the answer is.
Right, that's the actual thing.
Yeah.
Because remember, just
but-
like when Christians broadly say, oh, we're being oppressed in America, and what's actually happening is, no, you're being told not to oppress other people.
Right.
That's the action of a bully, right? When
Yeah.
a bully punches you and you punch back, suddenly, oh, how could you have done this? This is unbelievable. I can't believe this happened. Why would you be such a vile person? On and on and on, right? This is just that. In fact, this is just the geopolitical version of Darvo. You're
But
reversing
people
blame.
learn in hockey.
And the amount
that
of
the player
Darvo
who
I went to on
retaliates-
Twitter.
So people that learn in hockey, the player who retaliates is the one that gets in the penalty box, not the one who started it. That's usually how it's done.
I have been pointing out recently that no, you don't understand. Canada is right now elbows up. There are still 2 more steps. There's 2 more phases that we can do. This is only
Yes.
phase 1. Elbows up.
Get ready for some thunder.
Elbows up. Then it starts turning into the whole team brawl. That's when you get to the
but you
over the
elbows up,
boards.
board and then the stick.
Well, and here's the thing. To try to come out and make some random, egregious, generally just lies about Canada, which I would like to point out has been consistent from the Trump administration. Between the FBI director, the what's-her-face, was it Tulsi Gabbard? I don't know. There's like 3 women, and I keep getting them confused because they're all basically the same figures. Pam Bondi and what's the other one? Chrissy Nome. Oh, I think it was Nome. Have all been consistently lying about Canada with Howard Lutnick have been lying consistently about Canada to try to influence the average American to shift the narrative to view Canada as an enemy, right? They want to be justified to do what they're doing. They want to seem justified to the American people, so they want the American people to begin to dislike Canada. So they frame everything that Canada is doing in response to the Trump administration as if it is an assault on the American people. For example, like saying that we're sending fentanyl over the border when literally all the facts is that America is actually responsible for a shitload of fentanyl and illegal guns coming into Canada.
Yep.
What?
Like when it
what
comes to
people-
smuggling across that border, much more goes north than comes south.
And so
What's happening
you know,
is
This 400% tariffs you talked about on dairy products, right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter that there's a level of which there's an agreement of how much that dairy products are allowed to from the United States to enter into Canada.
Yes.
And if it reaches a certain level, the things above that certain level are tariffed at 400%. It has never reached a 400% tariff level.
No.
Right? That now many Canadians live next to the U.S. border and come across to buy dairy products.
Used to.
And there's a spot just right over there where they do that on a regular basis, right?
Mhm.
And they by the way, they still do. They sneak over, apologize, say sorry, and sneak back.
They should stop
well, not
apologizing.
But nevertheless, this notion of this 400 tariff is I don't know if Agent Orange doesn't understand this or doesn't care. But
convenient.
again,
Well, I can guarantee you he doesn't understand it. He
Yeah.
probably also
Gentlemen
doesn't
Food
understand it.
Organization playing Putin's game. These communist sympathizers are trying to essentially use attacking Canada because Putin doesn't like them, because Canada is very effective in the war
We are.
of the Russian-Ukrainian
it's
war.
also it's also like funny like that Americans who support Trump administration are not realizing that they are in an abusive relationship with this administration where this administration is isolating America from all its allies across the globe who can knock some sense into them. You know what I mean? That's what's happening.
That's a
And they
very
don't realize that
abusive.
at all.
That's a very classic
They don't,
abusive relationship where there's
yeah.
a controlling partner that's abusive, trying to isolate the victim.
It's
Yeah.
mobs.
Believe
Trump's
me.
a mobster. He's trying to extort money and being
Yeah.
like, wow, it'd be a real shame if something were to happen to your economy, wouldn't it? Like, he's trying to be like, oh, because of the digital service tax. It's like, not that was started like during Trudeau's terms. Like that, like
Yeah.
it's not new. It didn't start yesterday. It's like there's effects
Can we
and
take a
back
break,
pay,
by the
but
way?
it's not new. Yeah, after this. I'm just trying to get through the last bits.
Sorry, I was just like, weren't we supposed to take a break?
Manya's getting fatigued.
There's one thing as well about this is at what take the top 10 individuals with the most amount of money on the planet, 9 of them are American, and almost all of them are in the tech industry. There's like 2 that are super duper rich because they're part of like holding companies, right? Shareholding companies. The rest are all tech. You've got like Bezos, you have Elon, you have Zuckerberg, you have the guy who does Google, there's the other guy that does, I think it's Palantir, I don't remember. But like it's all those companies. Yeah. So like 9 of them. They equal about their net worth to combine, not including the 10th guy who's in French, by the way. France guy. The 9 of them together are worth about $1.8 trillion. So what if they get taxed 3% after an amount? It's nothing. It's absolutely meaningless. And this is like keeping in mind that things like Meta and things like Twitter do not follow the laws of other countries, particularly when it comes to fake news and harassment laws. So fucking take them. We don't need fucking oligarch monopoly shit in our country. Yeah. There's already a social media platforms that are not American based. There's already one being developed in Canada that will be Canadian based. We're working on a electric car that might end up being the first Canadian brand car ever. And where are we gonna get our fake news from? Our own media? Ooh. What the fuck?
Either CBC or this hour is. It'll be either CBC or this hour has 22 minutes.
Well, and like at the end of the day, fucking take it. Fucking take it. Again, good luck running your fucking tech oligarchy when we turn your power off to the whole fucking fucking eastern side of your country. Sit down, shut up, and fuck off, dumbass. We don't need Amazon either. Actually, one of the funny things about Amazon is if Amazon wants to fucking do this shit and wants to be like, oh, we're just gonna not do work in Canada anymore, we build their packing machines and program their packing machines in Ontario.
Yeah.
Dumb fucks. Please stop committing fucking economic suicide on your own countries or on your own companies. Like, that's what's happening. Trump is literally shooting yourselves in the fucking foot and being like, Canada, how could Canada do this?
Ooh.
Alright, I'm done with my rants. Alright, let's take a break.
Alright.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fucking hell.
What the
And we are back as soon as I
Hello.
hit the button. Hello, hello, hi,
Oh.
hello, hi, hello. They heard you. Don't worry. So here's the thing.
Hello.
My last thing on this, because I can't stop.
But we're still on this?
Yeah. I just got one more thing to say. I can afford eggs.
Ooh, that hurts. Oh, actually, I can afford to because we have people with chickens that make eggs.
Yeah.
Eggs come from chickens, and
Go
they
figure.
have chickens, and they trade with us, and we don't tariff them.
Hey, Lamau.
Wait, well then, how do you make sure that you're getting a fair deal if you're not tariffing the eggs?
Tariffing the
Because
eggs.
Tariff the
we
chickens.
follow Ray Krohn's economic model.
There's the thing
Oh,
is,
God.
right? The thing
Oh.
is, right, like, a lot of people are like, oh, how is Canada going to respond to this? And, like, a lot of Canadians are sort of on the same vein as Dapper is. Fuck this man and his stupid fucking horse he rode in on. Embarrass him and tell the United States to go fuck itself. That's what a lot of Canadians think. I don't disagree with the sentiment. However, I think that the way Canada comes out of this on top and in the best scenario is not to lose our cool. I think what we should do is continuing on doing what we're doing and repositioning ourselves on the global scale and giving ourselves as much time as possible to reorient our military. But yeah.
To point it at the southern border?
To deter aggression from the south. We're gonna build a wall. All right.
That'll be a really, really long wall. Good
It'd be
luck.
a really long. No, America's gonna pay for it. It's fine.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
We're gonna hire all the immigrants from that are fleeing America. All right,
That actually could work.
that could work. All right, Donald Trump sparks fresh health fears as concerning trend emerges. President Donald Trump has been accused of showing a clear sign of cognitive decline and dementia after being spotted appearing to nod off at a string of high-profile events. That's a good picture.
I mean, that's nothing new, though.
Mhm.
He's been doing that for at least a decade.
Yeah, they just liked pointing it at Biden, right? But this one was the 79-year-old was repeatedly spotted falling asleep throughout his hush money trial back in May of 2024, but the pattern appears to have continued into his second term. It comes as Trump's health fears have also exploded over a dark mark on his hand.
I'm sorry, those are health hopes.
Yeah,
To be
right.
clear.
Sleeping at Pope Francis's funeral, Sleepy Dawn, cognitive deteriorating felon Trump. Like, I don't know. I don't know about the dark spots on his hand, but he is clearly, like, not okay, right? Like, we all are on the same page on that one.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's a very unhealthy man. I know that his official health reports that come out occasionally,
Official.
because apparently for some reason people care to read about the president's health reports, but they're all like, oh yeah, no, he's fine. It's like, yeah, that's obviously propaganda. It's not actually true.
Yeah.
The problem is that he's not nearly bad enough. We need to start serving him extra bacon on all those burgers.
I think that there's something to be said, though, that these are the things that they let him do, right? These are the things that we get to see, so you know for a fact that he's worse behind the scenes. Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
Also, like, this guy's got, like, the nuclear launch codes. Like, and so his health is a public business. And it has happened in the past where America specifically has hidden health problems that, you know, their presidents have had. So it's not going to be surprising. Like Jess said, that this is just what's leaking through the cracks. So what's the dam holding back, actually? What's happening behind the scenes? How much of it happening behind the scenes? And yeah, you know, and who's actually running the government based on that? So
a lot of people think
simple
it's
question.
Stephen Miller. Like, a lot of what's being done in America right now is based off of Stephen Miller and what he wants to do, as well as, like, a mix of, like, tech moguls, like, big money. Between big money and Steve Miller specifically. Like, one of the things that people are, like, even this thing about this tariff stuff with Canada and having an issue with the DST seems to be related to like Elon and Zuckerberg and some of their contracts coming up and being reviewed and things like that. The timing and the alignment with it. But you know, fingers crossed, I guess. Natural death may take him soon. France bans smoking at beaches, parks, and bus shelters. That's a big deal for France.
Wow.
France,
Yeah.
yes. I was going to say.
France is not one for banning smoking most places.
Yeah. So France will ban smoking on beaches and in parks, public gardens, and bus shelters starting tomorrow. This came out the 28th, so today. So as of tomorrow. The decree published in the official government gazette this morning will also ban smoking outside of libraries, swimming pools, and schools, and is aimed at protecting children from passive smoking. The decree did, nope, I was right the first time. The decree did not mention electronic cigarettes. Those breaching the ban will face a fine of $135, and quote, tobacco must disappear from places where there are children. That's like their main shtick. I think this is a good idea.
I mean, step in the right direction, I'd say.
Yeah. So good job, France.
I like it.
Public
Yeah.
health.
There's
Protest.
also
Oh, go ahead.
since I get to know, so in Australia now what they have started doing is they have demanded all the tobacco countries, like the companies that sell cigarettes, is to put a cancer warning on each cigarette. On each cigarette, that's what they have now announced, that's what needs to be done. So all the companies scrambled to get the last of their like stocks off the shelves into the market, and now we are waiting for, I think so, August or September, when the new stock comes in, where each cigarette will have a warning on it.
That's fun.
And it's like I'm like, oh my god! And this is Australia, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can imagine what my job is when I know this stuff is happening.
Protester rally in Bangkok to demand Thai Prime Minister's resignation over leaked Cambodia call. So thousands of protesters gathered in Thailand's capital on Saturday to demand the resignation of Prime Minister, I don't know how to pronounce that, part of a brewing political turmoil set off by a leaked phone call with a former Cambodian prime minister. Recent. So remember last month we talked about the border dispute where they were going to close the border?
Yeah.
It's an
Yes.
escalation of that.
Oh.
So there was an armed confrontation at the end of May on the 28th, which I believe was after our show. One Cambodian soldier was killed. The recorded phone call between the former prime minister of Cambodia and the current prime minister of Thailand was at the heart of the demonstration on Saturday and has set off a string of investigations in Thailand that could lead to the prime minister's removal. Outrage over the call mostly revolved around the prime minister's comments toward outspoken regional army commander and her perceived attacks to appease Cambodia. The current Cambodian Senate president to ease the tensions at the border. About 20,000 protesters joined the rally as of Saturday night, according to an estimate by the Bangkok police. Despite a downpour in the afternoon, they held national flags and play cards around the Victory Monument in central Bangkok. So that's interesting.
You know, there were protests last time I was in Thailand.
Really?
It's one of the few things I associate with the country, honestly.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what's going to end up happening, but it seems to be an escalation at the very least.
Yeah.
I mean, I
like,
have no idea what's going to happen either.
It's like there was some attempts at like informal approach to diplomacy, and the public didn't like it because they think that it's an attack on their sovereignty, and they take it really seriously. They're like, don't go in that direction with our sovereignty. Just keep it formal and keep it straightforward. So I guess that's what's going on here. The main concerns, the public sentiment would be that our sovereignty is not something to be taken lightly and informally.
It looks
Don't
like
do
their
that.
issue that this is a constitutional issue about their from the Office of National Anti-Corruption. Where it's like, so for example, like the whole tu quoque thing that happened with Trump in his first term, right? Where he's like making these really underhanded, sketchy as fuck phone calls to like other countries and trying to bully and threaten them into do this, scratch my back, I scratch your back, and wouldn't it be a shame if something happened to your economy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess the
something
constitutional
happened to
court,
our economy.
yeah, wow, it'd
Yes,
really be a
called economic
shame.
vandalism.
Yeah, it'd be a shame. Denmark plans to thwart deepfakers by giving everyone copyright over their own features. This is incredibly interesting. I have no idea if this is gonna work.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
So, the Danish government is planning to tackle the issue of AI-generated deepfakes by granting citizens property rights over their likeness and voice. The proposed legislation
That
would
is
mean...
so... Wow.
I like that.
The proposed legislation would mean that people who find that their features have been used to create a deepfake would have the right to ask the platforms that host the content to take it down. They believe that technology has outpaced legislation, as it does.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true.
Yeah, and that the proposed law would help to protect artists, public figures, and ordinary people from digital identity theft, which he said is now possible with just a few clicks thanks to power of generative AI. Quote, I think we should not accept a solution where human beings can be run through, if you would have it, a digital copy machine and misused for all sorts of purposes. He cited examples of musical artists. One such case involves Canadian singer Celine Dion, who in March warned fans about AI-generated content featuring her voice and likeness that was circulating online.
But Celine Dion has been featured on South Park. She's the lady that has the CD on her chest, and no one in South Park paid Celine Dion for that likeness.
And
so actually, that is one of the
also...
things that I'm a little concerned about. Is okay. So what about parody or political cartoonist or something? Is that going to fall under some kind of fair use? I don't know.
They have made exemptions for that. They have made, I think, so
okay.
This
Well, then there you
makes
go.
exemptions for that.
Well, I think this legislation, there are already free, like, there are already exemptions that exist in copyright, right? So, like, if somebody makes a political cartoon about you, they are not pretending to be you, nor, quote-unquote, selling your image. They're selling their commentary, right? So...
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, so
it's probably going to play out in court a couple of times, don't get me wrong. Like, it'll come up, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, what I kind of looked into this article a little bit. I was lucky to come across this. So the legislation does exempts parody and satire because they're acknowledging that there is importance in freedom of expression. But what the main point is to set a precedent for personal autonomy and to protect individuals from deepfakes. We saw what happened with that individual who was in Japan, Somali, that TikToker
Johnny Somali,
who was in Japan. Johnny Somali, what he did was he produced deepfakes of certain female Japanese YouTubers in very, very compromising positions.
And Korean.
And Korean, was it? Sorry, my bad.
So it seems like there might have been a deepfake of Japanese YouTubers or streamers, but there definitely were several of Koreans. And his current charges are in South Korea.
South Korea, got it. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, he was already expelled from Japan.
Koreans. Yeah, got it. So he's in South Korea. So other countries do have provisions for that already, if you can see that. So it's Denmark also. So they're countries are trying to catch up, which is really, really good, especially in this day and age. Like we said, like, artists and actors and actresses, like it happened with Johansson. What's her name? Scarlett Johansson, right? There was some. I don't know if it was a video game or was it I don't know what it was, where her likeness and her sound or her sound I think so. It was some company using a voice on phone or something like that, and she did not like it. She's like, "You don't get to use my voice likeness like that." So that's where it's heading to, and America should also start looking into this. This is very important, in my opinion, which is good.
America's a write-off. We can't. America is nowhere near in a space where it's going to start treating its citizens as people right now. So, but I do think Canada should get on board with this, and particularly one of the things I find amusing about this article, and Australia as well. One of the things I find amusing about this article is the first person they mention is Celine Dion, who is a very well-known Canadian artist, French Canadian specifically, and the Danes and the Canadians have a long history and a long friendship, so and seeing those ties deepen, I think, is really nice, and I think that's intentional, because the article does go on.
So,
if I pull it up,
mentioning Celine Dion,
well, they mention, and here's the thing, right? This is what I'm kind of pointing out here, is that they mention Celine Dion in her own paragraph, and then proceed to go on and talk about, like, Billie Eilish, John Bon Jovi, J. Rule, Katy Perry, the Jonas Brothers, a bunch of Americans, right? And the Americans are all just shoved together in one thing, but, like, Celine Dion gets her own fucking little blurb.
She's a fucking legend, dude. She sung for, like, Deadpool movies.
Yeah,
so, like,
I think she's more famous than any of those Americans you mentioned, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, combined together.
Maybe in Danish land.
I mean, if you make it on South Park, you've definitely you're on the A list.
Yeah.
Let's just say this:
Katy Perry's been in South Park,
and or sing at least a few Celine Dion tunes.
Yeah,
I can't do that for any of the other ones.
I do have the recorder.
Can we get "My Heart Will Go On" the recorder
right now? Probably not. We should get going on to the next ones. I mean, if you really want, I could do it, and it would fall under our next
video. Chesh plays "My Heart Will Go On" the recorder.
Yeah, there we go. Natural disasters.
Oh dear.
Yay! This show is so fun.
Yahoo! Now, if I could scroll through this while playing "My Heart Would Go On the recorder, it might be a little bit distasteful.
I think you might need an extra mouth to also talk about it with.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's wildfires in Canada. Again, America has not reciprocated, and as far as I know, America has not sent any aid to help with the fires in Canada. Australia has. Australia's been hanging out.
Canadian smoke coming over the border.
Sudden storms, unprecedented flash floods in central Nigeria, flooding.
And they also have problems in the cities of not having very good drainage. Even when I was there in Nigeria last year, there was basically places where it was like axle deep waters on city streets sometimes.
Flooding in Algeria, over 100 killed in DRC floods. Bad weather threatens the agriculture sector. Kuwait's bad weather disrupts air and marine transport. Flash floods sweep across Jordan. Dust storms hits Al Qasim, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, province in Saudi Arabia. Earthquake in Japan. Cyclones in Australia. Landslide in Algeria. Natural disaster lost. We can look at the first quarter of 2025. Oh, it's broken. Never mind.
No.
Womp womp.
Oh god, no.
Basically, there's there's wildfires ravaging Japan right now, extreme tornadoes across the United States, cyclones, Los Angeles fires, but now we're getting into, like, January. So there's a lot of weather. Here's some ongoing disaster alerts. You can find these links down below as well if you're looking or you want to. This is Relief Web. Panama river pollution, local storms, a cholera outbreak. So if you're traveling, look out for that. Bangladesh floods, Nigeria, which I just mentioned, Ecuador, yellow fever outbreak, Algeria floods, Kenya, Haiti, Zimbabwe got malaria again, Somalia, I don't know how to, no, I'm not even gonna try. Kenya, again. So, there's also a massive measles outbreak in America, as well as portions of Alberta. There's been a couple of things popping up in other provinces in Canada, but specifically
What's the
measles.
bio thing out in the ocean? Is that there? Yeah. Who's that?
Tonga.
Oh, Tonga. Oh, yes, right. Yeah, dengue fever. Yes.
Yep.
Having problems with that.
Yeah, and this one way over here is an earthquake.
Well, I mean, that's like, there's where, remember I talk about how many volcanoes Indonesia has in that region?
Yep.
They're a big wiggly wobbly spot.
So, yeah, look out here. So, yeah, we're not going to go too into what everything is, but if you are interested, these are ongoing situations, are the red ones, and the orange are indicate disaster alerts. So if you're traveling to any of these areas, or if you're traveling at all, feel free to check out this link. Again, it is down below. But
And
yeah.
get your vaccines.
Oh, for the love, I am convinced. All right, I've been saying this since since Trump took office. Everybody needs to start treating anybody traveling from America as if they back with COVID restrictions.
Oh, yeah.
Mandatory quarantine when you return or have left or arriving from America. Vaccine checks, masks. Wash your damn hands. Yuck.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Right
All right.
before COVID happened, I managed to get myself 4 liters of hand sanitizer.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, last bunch, because Dapper wants us to be wholesome and have fun here. So this is like our nature and animal segment, I guess.
Yay!
Aww.
New Hope, ash trees, rapidly evolving resistance to dieback, study reveals. Subtle DNA changes in trees demonstrate Charles Darwin's natural selection through human help may be needed, although human help may be needed. So for anybody
Okay,
who's been...
first of all,
What?
I hate this because, like, guys, this is like saying, oh, rock fell in Alaska, demonstrating Newton's idea of gravity. Like, okay, we're past this,
Yes.
guys? We don't
If
need
it
to
wasn't for
keep
Newton,
talking
no
about
rocks would
this.
fall in Alaska. That's well known. They asked Newton, and Saint Newton tells the rock, "You can fall." That's the way it works in Alaska.
I appreciate that both of you think that. However, this is an American news outlet, and too many American outlets or too many Americans don't believe that evolution is true. So this might actually be a really good thing to start adding to literally everything.
All right.
Evolving, yeah.
Okay, how about this? They should point everyone to me so I can do my job instead of them doing it for me.
That would be very funny. I would appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's, I've heard about this a few years back, that there was a really big issue about ash trees dying off because of a tree disease, basically, and it was killing off a bunch of them, and it's a fungus, because there's fungus among us. But it looks like the trees are making a bounce back. Ash diebacks is the cause
Convincing
of...
proof that made by Charles Darwin. See, it says.
Yeah, Charles Darwin, he invented the idea of mutation and natural selection. Without him, before him, nothing evolved.
Evolution 1, MAGA 0.
Because I saw your little shrine to Darwin on your channel. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Hail Saint Darwin.
I actually have 2 shrines to Darwin.
Oh, there's a new one?
Well, I've had 2 for a while now.
Okay.
In other good news, bee hotels.
Oh.
Good.
Hotel. I like that.
Bees are important.
Bee hotels
Very
can help
important.
native pollinators recover in the wake of climate-fueled wildfires. Wild
Interesting,
pollinator
very
populations are declining all over the world, with increasingly severe climate change-fueled wildfires threatening their survival. These intense wildfires are also putting long-term ecosystem health and biodiversity at risk. Bee hotels are artificial nesting structures that have been specifically designed to house captivity nesting species, often placed
Cavity nesting.
Oh, sorry,
Cavity.
cavity. Oh, God. Sorry, I'm really tired. Actually, you know what? I'm pretty impressed with myself that I have not flubbed it up
Oh, you
that
don't.
bad today.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the first
Good
one in
job,
2
Jeff.
hours.
Yay.
Nice.
Cavity nesting species, often placed in backyards or gardens, they provide safe havens and nurseries for essential pollinators. New research led by conservationist Dr. Kit something or another A native bee scientist with University of Southern Queensland has found that bee hotels can play an essential role in helping native bee populations recover from wildfires. Bees!
Bees are good.
Would you host a bee hotel in your yard? I would.
Yes.
Well,
So
we actually had beehives on the farm when I was a kid, and I used to do bee hive management. They're interesting
That's
to work
cool.
with.
So one thing I want to point out is that this is specifically for native bees. And one thing is, during the whole, like, oh, we got to save the bees thing, which has sort of died down now, what people tended to focus on was the European honeybee, which is a domesticated animal that has been introduced more or less worldwide, right? But the problem is that honeybees tend to focus, because humans make them, on crops. But we also have to worry about the biodiversity of wherever it is you happen to live, right? So for me, that would be Arizona, whatever. And native bees are important to that. And native bees are harder to bring back from the brink, right? Because just like with any other domesticated animal, right? Let's say there was a big cow die-off. What are people going to do who own cattle? They're going to breed a bunch of cows. Similarly, when there was a bunch of die-offs in European honeybees, apiarists bred a bunch of honeybees. But you can't go out there and breed, like, I don't know, like the Minnesota emerald solitary bee, right? How are you going to do that? So this is protecting native bees is very important to protecting the local biodiversity. And that local biodiversity is important for many reasons, which I'm not going to get into the whole ecology thing, right? But like, I'm going to take it that at least people here accept that biodiversity, especially native biodiversity, is an important thing. And so we need to find ways to make sure that native bees are protected and safe and are able to rebound after disasters, because they are a hugely important part of any ecosystem they're a part of.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. According to what Red Eye sent me, it's the pre-made bee hotels being sold in shops and online are not designed to protect the native bees, which I think is what Dapper was getting to, right? Like,
yeah, we need to make sure we protect native bees.
And the other issue was that experts were warning that cheap imported options might actually harm native species because of the chemicals that they might be treated with. So basically, the Australian Native Bee Association is calling for a national monitoring scheme of native species, saying that Australia is falling behind in this area. So they're basically taking the opportunity to say, hey, this is a really good idea, but we need to make some adjustments for our our native bees as well. Which I think is steps in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
Hooray! All right. Yippee bees. Southern resident orcas observed grooming each other with seaweed in first documented tool.
Neat.
Oh, come
making
on.
by a
Interesting.
marine mammal. Yeah.
Must have been happening for some time. They just observed it now. Okay.
Observed grooming each other with seaweed in first
Yeah.
documented. Listen, these are the same kinds of orcas that were attacking all the yachts. So, like, clearly they have gained sentience and have also figured out how to use toothbrushes. Orca whales have been observed biting off lengths of kelp and using the strands to massage each other. The first known evidence of marine mammals making tools. A group of killer whales off the coast of the United States and Canada were seen removing the ends of seaweed stalks, pulling them between their bodies, and rolling them for long periods, likely for play and to strengthen social bonds, but possibly to remove parasites and or dead cells. We are amazed when we first noticed this behavior. Yahoo!
So orcas are known to be very sociable species, aren't they? They are very
Yes.
social.
With
So,
each other, yeah.
Like it's not it's not surprising that they've got some culture or some like
Grooming habits.
grooming habits. Like it happens with every social species. They do that. What really is funny to me is like them communicating with each other and like, you got an itch on your back? No worries, I got you, babe.
I got you,
Grabbing
fam.
you, like, scratching. Oh, it's there at
So
the back
this
over
is-
here. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, this is both very cool and also not hugely surprising, I don't think.
No.
Yeah. But it's good to
so-
know that you can observe it and document it. So
Oh yeah, it's like I said, it's extremely cool. But like, if you're familiar with cetaceans, you shouldn't be terribly surprised. Cetaceans are extremely intelligent, as a rule.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. They are known. They I think so. If humans and orcas lived in the same environment, orcas would have like decimated us by now because of their intelligence level.
Nah. So
I'm telling you about the environment. About the environment. I'm just telling you. Like the way they act together, and they're yeah. That's my bias. Okay, go away.
If mermaids existed and lived in the same environment as orcas, orcas now would be the wolves, and there would be a version of mammal that would be the equivalent of dogs. And it would either be or it would be seals, or it would be like some sort of porpoise that would likely be more like a cat.
This is a very strange conversation all of a sudden.
Yeah, alright, so sad news on bees. This is to justify the bee hotels. Mass honeybee collapse may compromise U.S. agriculture. So besides the problems with U.S. agriculture because of the Canadian-U.S. relations collapsing, commercial beekeepers across the United States earlier this year discovered their colonies of honeybees in near or total collapse without explanation in what the apiary industry is calling the worst bee die-off in United States history. More than half of the nation's managed honeybee colonies appear to have experienced mass die-offs. These losses, combined with honeybee die-off events during other times of the year, mean that many beekeepers have seen 70 to 100% of their colonies collapse over the past 12 months, according to February 6th report by the Honeybee Research Project APIS. Quote, the losses are severe, broad, and may impact food security through inadequate pollination services. The report states financial losses to the apiary industry are estimated to be well over $139 million.
Wow.
That's big bad. So, like, besides the global economic issue, climate change is real and is going to kill you if you do not vote for people who are going to take it seriously.
Which, by the way, means people who will build new nuclear power plants. There are no other viable, currently able to be implemented power solutions that can actually reduce carbon emissions as much as is needed besides nuclear.
And yes, I agree. And also, if you're dealing with something about, like you got hydroelectric power, don't sit there and say, well, let's tear down the hydroelectric dams to save some fish. Because the damage you do to the environment by having one of the cleanest renewable resources, hydro, removed is much worse than the fish habitat that doesn't exist, trying to bring it back, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, right? So this is why I'm not really against a pipeline, like another pipeline being added to Canada. It's likely is the better option comparatively to doing nothing. As long as it's managed and there's a plan that is eco-friendly and global climate change friendly in its direction, then I'm happy. I'm happy with that. Because you can still make these things and keep your carbon footprint on the decline. And so as long as that's the focus and it still keeps going down while we build up what we need, and we are able to share that with other countries, and those other countries are able to work with us, and maybe our line is going to be more ecologically friendly than somebody else's line and their drilling processes, then we can do overall good. So, but I don't know all the details. I don't have a security clearance. Anyway, like the opposition leader in Canada, I don't have my security clearance. Ant no stopping us now. Die.
Oh,
Insect with potent sting continues to march across the United States. Experts say Asian needle ant not especially dangerous, but warn some people have gone into anaphylaxis.
Yay!
Ouch.
Yeah. Oh god.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Yeah, so look out for that if you're in the United States. They're on the move. The world's most trafficked mammal, quote, might soon be protected by the U.S. Endangered Species Act. The Fish and Wildlife
The pangolin?
Services has...
Yeah,
Yo,
it's
why
the
did you
most,
spoil it?
Because I was guessing and I wasn't sure, but I thought the pangolin was the most trafficked mammal, and I was like, why would the pangolin be protected in the United States? That's weird. We don't have pangolins.
You're correct. It's the pangolin.
Yay!
The Fish and Wildlife Service has proposed listing 7 species of pangolin, often poached for their scales and meat, as endangered. Federal officials have proposed declaring the pangolin endangered, a move that would help protect what is often considered the most trafficked mammal in the world. Pangolins are adorable, but they're not exactly whatever. I don't care about your fucking opinion. Up to 2.7 million African pangolins are killed by poachers every year, mainly because of demand from Asian markets. Pangolin products also make their way to the United States. Border officials seized 76 shipments that included pangolin parts between 2016 and 2020. Now, in a bid to increase protections for the animal, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services is looking to list 4 Asian pangolin species and 3 African species under the Endangered Species Act.
Good.
Yay! Little buddies!
Look,
they're so cute.
Pangolins are both adorable. They're the closest relatives of carnivorans. If you like things like cats and dogs, they're related to them. They are they're almost entirely inoffensive. They only eat ants and termites. And they are considered a delicacy, and also in some places their scales are harvested as for medicinal purposes. Here's the thing about the hair, though. Their scales. Their scales are literally just fused hair. There is no medical benefit to grinding up pangolin scales and eating them.
Ew.
You're just eating hair. You might as well bite your fingernails and eat that. It's the same chemical.
That's gross. That sounds as bad as putting, like, chili pepper or turmeric on your kids' cuts.
Injury.
Well, no, turmeric actually has some, like, demonstrable anti-inflammatory properties.
What was it then? It wasn't turmeric. Which one was it there, Maanyaa?
Curry powder.
Curry powder. That was it. Yeah, don't do that.
I said that it might be turmeric, and they
Eat it.
mistook it for curry powder. That's what I was saying.
I was remembering. I was remembering what the smart person said, not the idiot.
Yeah, right.
Venomous cube-shaped creature with 24 eyes discovered at the bottom of a Hong Kong pond.
What the
Is
hell?
it a ctenophore?
Shocking new species was discovered at Hong Kong Maze Po Nature Reserve, a venomous jellyfish with a cube shape and 24 eyes.
Oh. Jellyfish.
Do we get a species name? Because I feel like it might actually be a ctenophore.
Yeah.
No, it's a jellyfish. All right, never mind.
Yeah, this is what it looks like.
Yep.
Isn't it neat?
It is. You also don't get a whole lot of lake jellyfish. That's not a big thing.
They named it Tripedelia mypoensis.
That makes sense.
Nice.
I did my best.
Oh, God.
Measuring less than a centimeter long, its transparent body takes the shape of a small cube with a slight white tint. From each of its 4 corners, 3 tentacles extend, each one lined with 24 eyes arranged in clusters. The jellyfish's eyes serve more than just an aesthetic purpose. They have functional roles. 2 of the eyes are on each side capture images, while the other 4 detect light, giving it a broad field of vision.
Also, I want to point out, those images are not processed by a brain because it doesn't have one.
Yahoo!
What?
Yahoo!
They just send signals inside it to do things?
So it has a neural net, which basically just innervates most parts of the body roughly equally. And it's actually, as far as I know, still a pretty big mystery how it is that jellyfish benefit from image-forming camera eyes, but they definitely have them.
So is this just an Asian freshwater box jellyfish?
No, it is not a box jelly. So box jellies are in a different phylum. They're ctenophores. This is a nidarian.
Oh.
And
they have got
one of the ways you can tell that this is
stuff.
an actual jellyfish and not a box jelly is that it has tentacles that hang down from the mantle, whereas ctenophores, they don't have tentacles, and instead they have usually bioluminescent, but not always bioluminescent, cilia that line their body in rows that they use to swim. They're the largest organism that uses cilia to swim, and they are no more closely related to a jellyfish than you are by most genetic studies.
Neat. All right, last one.
Yeah.
To save rhinos, conservationists are removing their horns. Across South Africa, removing the object of poachers' desire to reduce rhino deaths by 78% and raise the question, why is a rhino without its horns? So reduced rhino death by 78%.
Just is what is a rhino?
Why is Gamora? What is a rhino without its horn?
What is Gamora?
What is Gamora? Conservationists are increasingly turning a method of protecting the world's diminished population of rhinoceros, removing their horns before poachers can get them on hands on them. A study published Thursday in the journal Science found that dehorning, a conservation practice that involves sedating the often multi-ton. Oh, it's big. Multi-ton animals, covering their eyes and ears and trimming their horns, which do not have nerves and grow back in a few years, reducing poaching by 78% over a 7-year period across 11 reserves in South Africa, home to most of Africa's rhinos, whereas costly surveillance and law enforcement often prove futile in vast, tangled landscapes of criminal syndicates, corruption and wealth and inequality around South African reserves. Conservationists and researchers say dehorning appears to be the most impactful but should remain a measure of last resort rather than a long-term solution.
Let's also not forget, entities like Vietnam, Bitcoin people, pit care and other things that then sell the products to people that have pathetic so-called native traditional medicines that are useless, that end up exterminating
and it also
creatures
like
this.
Question is like, my question is, you're playing with nature here. You are, instead of attacking the markets, right, and attacking the what do you say, the myth or the stuff, like the uneducated masses who use these for horns and stuff. Instead of attacking all that, we are altering the animals themselves. I get it, but that's like, it's like that. It's being treated as the only way to like.
Well, it's being treated as one of the more effective ways so far.
Plus, it's like, is it helping with the population increase, or is it just helping the existing rhinos? That's it. And also, we know these stumps grow back, right? So there's no guarantee that those poachers will not come back for these rhinos. So like,
I think
like
that
just cutting their horns off is not a silver bullet, if I might say. It's not a silver bullet.
I have a different proposal. What are they doing with the horns that they're cutting off successfully?
Disposing of them.
Yeah, where are they?
Disposing them, destroying them.
Why don't you sell them for cheap on the market and flood it?
Because you end up promoting this ridiculous so-called traditional medicine.
Well, I don't care if people want to eat dumb shit and kill themselves because they're stupid. What I mean
You're not gonna
is,
die.
I don't mean from eating it. I mean from not getting medical attention.
Oh, okay.
But see, here's the thing, right? We have a lot of cows in America, right? In North America. If you got rid of the beef industry, you'd have way less cows in North America.
Yeah.
But as soon as you farm something, if it wasn't for the beef industry, you wouldn't have that many cows in North America. As soon as you farm something and you make it profitable to farm something instead of poaching it, you eliminate the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, why don't we do it with rhinos?
So there are a few things. One is it's illegal in many countries.
Yeah, but you can just decide to not make something illegal anymore. But
right, but the people doing the rhino horn cutting can. So that's why they're not doing it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So that's why currently it's not happening.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like Landon said, well, actually, another thing is there are actually attempts to try to flood the rhino horn market with fake rhino horn. That is also a thing that's happening. People are just creating fake rhino horns that are made out of keratin so that it's effectively the same thing, and then trying to flood the market with that.
And what
The other,
I think so
those are two
what
big
they're
reasons.
also doing is I think
I
in
also
some countries what they're doing is they are not cutting the horns off. They are coating it with something.
Yeah, we
which is
talked about that
poisonous
before.
for
Yeah.
humans. Yeah, we have talked about it. So that might be a better approach. But yes, I can see where Chesh is coming from when it becomes controlled through.
When something
it's
becomes
like
regulated and profitable,
Yeah.
you're suddenly the desire to protect and to enable the population of rhinos to increase becomes a viable business strategy.
the
Also,
thing is that the thing. Okay, if I may add a point. The thing is that it's for example, drugs, right? Like, yeah, some people say we should regulate drugs because, once
Well,
you
we
start
do,
making them
but
profit.
yeah.
Yeah, we do. I guess, yeah, maybe in that in that way, yeah. And like, yeah, and it can happen that as you start regulating it, people might start realizing, and you heavily regulate it, like you make it expensive or you make it really cheap, people might start realizing that there's actually no value at all, and they might actually stop buying it.
Well,
You know what
especially
I mean?
since
It's
the horns,
it's
if this
the
is a horn that regrows, if you make it profitable enough that keeping the rhino alive is worth more than poaching the rhino, if you want to attack the market and you want to stop the people from just slaughtering rhinos en masse, that's going to be your way to do it.
So yeah, because it's also the exoticism, right? It's also the rarity that like adds to the value of these horns, isn't it? That's also another thing. And
well,
when
that's if
it's
you're
not,
talking about the rarity, but if you're also talking about like people who are just shitty and poach endangered animals for fun, those are just people being assholes. They're not doing it for profit.
No. And so yeah, so I can get I get it from that perspective.
Which also, by the way, would make that if rhinos become more abundant, there becomes less of a desire to poach them for their rarity or to hunt them for rarity for fun as well.
Yeah.
Now, it would be a major logistical issue, don't get me wrong, but it seems like a viable solution.
Yeah, it's like how logistical issues there. Like how viable is it? How can
Well, it would take
and
a
who will
lot
be
of
interested in-
space, but this is all space that should belong to the rhinos anyway.
Plus, I think so it could be an economical thing also for that country, which is already spending money on protecting the rhinos, and to get some profits out of that. And
Well, you
put
could make it like
into-
the LCBO or the ABC in America, where the only people that are legally allowed to do it have to get licenses through the government, and the land is run or owned by the government, so you have to do it through them specifically, so the money goes to...
And another way that maybe to handle this is to put a 100% tax on all proceeds of cryptocurrency and shut down that fraud.
Yeah, just getting rid of cryptocurrency for sure. Yeah, cryptocurrency is a scam, obligatory. Getting rid of cryptocurrency. There is no negative to getting rid of cryptocurrency. Zero, none.
Yeah.
It's like getting rid of snake oil salesmen. You don't have to get rid of... Sorry, go ahead.
Actual Chinese water snake oil does have anti-inflammatory properties. So it's actually far more useful to sell snake oil than it is to sell anything like rhino horn or crypto.
If you were selling legitimate snake oil, yes. From the specific snake.
Weirdly enough, a thing that exists is, in fact, legitimate.
How many snakes do you have to get like a liter of snake oil?
Well, first of all, you don't sell it in liters. You sell it in like a few like
milliliters.
Yeah, milliliters. I don't actually know how many snakes you have to kill to get a particular volume. I know that it's actually the oil from their liver, so I can tell you that it's liver oil.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know how many snakes you have to kill to get
The things you
any
learn on
certain
this
value.
channel.
All right. Two things. One from Red Eye. Red Eye is saying that there are 2 companies that have been attempting and growing rhino horns from stem cells since 2018.
Interesting.
And Alex says the problem, it's already a black market. I don't think that that's a problem, in my humble
It's a
opinion.
bit of a problem.
It's a problem as of right now, but if you were to legalize it, it would suddenly not be a problem very much anymore. So, for example, black markets and illegal marketing tends to disappear as soon as it's legal. And it disappears relatively quick. If you want a couple examples, a lot of different drugs. So, for example, weed. Weed in Canada, really popular. Definitely illegal for a long time. That black market disappeared nearly overnight. It's almost non-existent now. So, a black market, the market might not go away itself, because there's always going to be an underbelly to any society, and it's sometimes necessary. On the other hand, as soon as you make something legal that you can just do normally, most people are going to do it the legitimate ways. You can treat the same way as, like, piracy, right? But when you make something available for people, they're not going to pirate the product. Most piracy happens because people either can't get it or can't afford it. You make it affordable, you make it accessible, people are willing to pay for it. Anyway, that was our last thing.
One Kinhoven.
Yeah, that was our last thing.
How many oils from snake oils does it take to make 1 Kinhoven?
Oh, all of them.
You would probably extinct that snake.
You would extinct all snakes.
Oh no. God.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, you would have to kill all of the snakes and squeeze out all of their livers all at once.
Gross.
Then maybe, yeah.
Well, that was everything. What do y'all got going on that you want to shill?
So,
Next week.
Well, one
Okay,
thing
yeah,
I want to
Dapper,
point
you
out is, so Chesh and I are both in a actual play for Star Trek Adventures First Edition called Star Trek.
I recommend
Nice.
it. I do
It
recommend
is good.
it.
However,
Watch the
it
show.
looks like we're taking a 2-week hiatus because first we have at least 2 of our American players who won't be able to make it on this Friday, and then I believe our producer won't be able to be there the Friday afterwards. So if you are a fan of that, which I know a few people here probably are, we probably won't have a game. I think I will be doing something for at least one of those days. I don't know what yet. Also, I'm going to send it to Chesh, but if you are a fan of my channel, you are probably familiar with Vishanti, who is one of my regular co-hosts. She also does a lot of stuff in the background for the channel that you don't always notice. And
cool
she was laid off and has been struggling to find a new job out in Southern California, which is a tough place to get a job and to afford to live in. And so she currently does have a fundraiser going. If you want to help her out, I have sent Chesh a link to it. And I will also be doing a fundraiser for her in which a sizable fraction of what I get on that stream will go to her, and that'll be happening later this month. Those are the 2 big things I wanted to talk about.
I will make sure that gets into the link in the description down below. I can't get it right this second, but I will make sure it gets into the description for sure. Because I can't get it in the live chat, but it will be down there unless Maanyaa can link it. Landon, what are you up to?
Well, one
sorry.
thing, of course.
What was that, Dapper?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll send it to Maanyaa too, just in case.
Okay. And Dapper and I are live on his channel soon on a Tuesday coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not this Tuesday, but the one after.
What's up, Landon?
So one thing is that the Volcano Show is scheduled for July 18th. Oh, it looks like Madame Pele is about maybe less than a day away from another lava fountain. So keep a watch on that. The 40th anniversary International Obfuscated Seed Cone Contest, the longest running contest on the internet. We are in the final round of the final rounds. So we expect to have an announcement sometime about the show on our favorite universe channel. Jess, I put a link in the chat thing if you can put it in the
It'll be in the
description
description.
and link below.
Okay.
That we're going to have a show produced by David, revealing the winners of the International Office Kids Contest, probably within about maybe 2 weeks or so. So it's been a while since the last one was in 2000. So we're looking forward to revealing the winners of the International Office Kids Contest. It'll be some fun stuff.
Yahoo!
Guaranteed.
Maanyaa, what are you up to?
Oh, we have got a version of Dump Fact Friday coming this Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, are there
Sorry,
dumb
Friday.
things happening that
Friday.
you could talk about?
Oh, a lot of dumb things are happening, and it's like, yeah, bigots being bigots, transphobes being transphobes, and morons who don't know they're around transphobes being transphobes with them. So it's like,
Okay.
I'm high
Just
on
checking,
coffee
just
in my
checking.
defense. I'm high on coffee now.
Maanya's been having a good time. She's been
Just checking.
Having a good time. Yeah, there was this moron who like couldn't like out argue me on Twitter, and then he ran to mommy and daddy, and they have been streaming about me ever since this whole week, and I'm just like enjoying every bit of it.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Maanyaa makes people mad. Worse than me.
Yeah. I like now, like before, if people thought that like, you know, I was like playing hardball, get ready for some thunder, guys, because my gloves are off. My intellectual gloves are off, and I am done just being like, all the things that I do professionally, they are not gonna seep into how I will do my stuff. Like it's gonna be like, you won't know what fucking hit you across your face. So get ready, and your brains will explode. So
oh
I
dear,
used to
they're
like
in for.
I used to like leave my brains for work. I'm not doing that anymore. So here you go. Now you're gonna get the whole package. Get ready. So good luck, motherfuckers.
Well, Maanyaa might just be getting started, but I am done. So I'll see you soon next time on Debate Hub.
Bye.
Have a good day,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Everyone.
Be nice if you can, or at least try.